What do I want? All right, let me figure out where we stopped. Hey y'all. Happy Wednesday. I am gonna be continuing on with the channel messages that I'm getting from the Pleiadians and from the divine feminine energies, and all of that today. I told myself that I'm just gonna hop on more often, because I'm getting a lot of energy that wants to work with me and a lot of energies coming through. And yesterday, hey AJ, yesterday I got a chance to talk to Persephone for the first time. And that energy really, really shocked me. But what she gave me, like the information she gave me, was really interesting. And I also got a chance to talk to the Blue Priestesshood as well, which was also like an interesting conversation. I don't know what I'd be expecting sometimes, but I think because like energies like Persephone and like Lilith and like um what else? Hecate have been like associated with demonology and demonized in some ways. I think I'd be expecting something different than what I actually get. When I talked to Persephone yesterday, she was so sweet. Like it was a very sweet energy. I do feel like there might be like another side to her if she's ever betrayed, but the energy that was coming through, she was kind of helping me with my womb, and basically giving me some insight on my womb and why my womb feels so congested sometimes. And so I kind of want to share what she was saying when it came to that, and then we can kind of get back into the book as well. So yeah, I've been missing your lives. Hi, I hope all is well. Hey, I haven't actually been live at all this year, except for like I've been live the 3 times in the last 2 weeks. But before that, I usually, last year I was live like every single week. I took a big ass break. It was like 6 months. I'm not even gonna lie. Like pretty much this whole year, I've been just kind of away in my own little world. But I think that I needed that time because I'm still growing and evolving as I like teach and I share like some of the lessons and stuff that I'm learning. I still have like my own shit that I be going through. And I think I just kind of needed to get my feet underneath me. And I also was just like really exhausted, like spiritually exhausted. Um, so yeah, I had to navigate some challenging things, which it was all around like self-worth. And I think a lot of women were going through that at the end of the year, like the whole untangling your worth from how much you give and what you have and like things like that, opposed to it just coming from your depth and your grace and your presence. Um, so anywho, yesterday I was sitting outside because after I get off work, I like to go and sit on my porch, especially like when the sun is going down. Because for some reason I'm like obsessed with the threshold, meaning like right before the sun comes up, right before like right after the sun goes down, but it's still kind of light outside. I do a lot of things at like threshold times, and so I was sitting outside, and Persephone came in, and Persephone has actually been trying to get a hold of me for like a couple of, I would probably say since this weekend, and I think I'm just learning myself spiritually, but what she told me is that our womb needs a purpose. And so she explained that our womb or our sacral is water energy, and water energy needs to be moving and needs to be kind of flowing. And there are like 3 expressions of that womb energy, which is emotional energy, sexual energy, or creative energy. And so we kind of always need to be doing one of those 3, especially if you're like a generator, because if not, that energy just kind of gets concentrated in your womb and it's not moving anywhere, it's not going anywhere. And so hey y'all. So like she kept saying that my womb needs a purpose. My womb needed a purpose. And I was like, okay, so like what's my purpose now? And she was like, well, speaking your truth, because she explained that I don't know if y'all was on the live like last week where I was talking about you have your higher self, you have your eternal self, which is like your truth. Your higher self is like a 6th-dimensional version of you. So a version of you that has made it up to the 6th density of consciousness in this space. Then the eternal version of you is like what they call like the devil on your shoulder, but it's really your truth. It's like the deepest version of you. Really, I feel like it's Earth's energy. Like your connection to Earth is your eternal self. It's connected directly into truth energy. And then there's you who's responsible for setting the environment to make sure that those energies can kind of embody in this reality, right? Um, okay. Um, so when we talk about your womb, which is your sacral, that's your water womb, because we have three wombs. Um, there is the water womb, which is your sacral. There is the void womb, which is your heart space, and then there's the fire womb, which is your third eye. And so the water womb needs to be creating, it needs to be producing something because it's water, and water needs to be moving in some way. And so she was saying that my womb needed a purpose, and that purpose is directly aligned with your truth. And so when most of us are looking for our purpose in life, it has to be aligned with our truth in order for it to suffice for what our womb needs, right? And so I thought that was crazy because I feel like once you go on your spiritual journey, a lot of people are like, I don't know what my purpose, I don't know what my purpose is. But once you start to actually move with your truth, your purpose becomes clear, And so when we think about like what our spiritual purpose is connected to, it's actually connected to Neptune, which I also think is interesting because the water womb and the fire womb, which is Neptune, they're both intrinsically connected. They're the same energy. They're just at different polarities, right? And so Neptune, which is your fire womb, Neptune is interesting because Neptune has a lot to do with your spiritual life purpose. It has to do with your dreams. It has to do with your goals. But when we're talking about your spiritual life purpose, Neptune is kind of elusive in the way that you need to look back at your belief systems and make sure that your belief systems are actually belong to you and they're not conditioning from society or the people who came before you or things like that. Like it's not inherited and that it actually belongs to you. Otherwise, you'll never get to your spiritual life purpose. And so when she was speaking to me yesterday and telling me that the water womb, which is your truth, you have to be anchored into your truth. This, has to have a purpose, and that purpose is directly associated with your truth. It just clicked in my head and I was like, oh, that fucking makes sense. Like that makes sense. So, hey, Callie. So yeah, I kind of wanted to share that with you because she was like showing me like in my body how concentrated my womb is. And she was telling me like, you already found your purpose. You're expressing your truth by getting on live and by sharing, the things that you're getting, like that's enough. And I was like, oh, okay, girl, but that makes sense. Now I actually have more motivation to get on live and talk about some of the things that I am getting. So yeah. So I wanted to share that because I was just like, and I kind of was just shocked that her energy was so nurturing, because she had been so demonized in, Greek mythology and, all this other shit. Like she had been demonized in a way. So I don't know what I was expecting. I was expecting her energy to be a little bit more startling or to induce fear in some way. And she was so gentle with me because I told her like, I don't know, I'm a little scared. I'm not going to lie, sister. I'm a little scared to talk to you because of the things that I have heard, like and I'll be having to be careful because I walk a line. I walk a line that's right on the edge of that cliff. And I fear that if I go over that cliff, I might not come back, And so that was just kind of interesting to me, that she was so gentle and she was so nice. Because I think when I speak to Lilith is very much so like, bitch, how dare you not know your motherfucking worth? You know what? Get out of my motherfucking face until you know your worth. Like that's it's a whole different energy, than what I was expecting, from Persephone. So yeah, anyways, she was very nurturing. She was helping me with my womb. She was telling me that your womb does need some type of purpose, and that purpose doesn't have to be, it has nothing to do with what we think our purpose is in this material realm. It has more so to do with you doing something meaningful to you, you expressing your truth from an honest place. Because that's what we came here to do. We came here to express our truth, right? And so you need to be finding something that gives you the space to talk about the things that are going on inside of your body. It's like a alchemy type of thing, And so, yeah, she said it could be creativity, it could be talking about what's going on in your emotional landscape. It could be connecting with other people, because other people are tied up into that water womb, or it could be sex, like it doesn't have to be one or the other. Like you just need to find a balance between the expression. So I wanted to share that because I thought that was really cool. And then when I was going to sleep, the Blue Priesthood came through, which I've been telling y'all. Hey, Black Angel, thank you so much. I've been telling y'all that I've been getting a lot of like things that are this color coming into my purview. And so yesterday before I logged off, I seen this girl who had dyed her fingers indigo, and they call it you, I forgot what it's called. There's a specific name for it. Kulumi, or I forgot what it's called. But basically, she dyed the tip of her fingers blue because of her ancestors, who basically were Gulagichi, or basically they worked on the indigo farms. People oftentimes take out of the history of Black American history, they take out the fact that a lot of our ancestors worked in indigo fields. And so what would happen is they would be creating denim, right? And they would be taking these indigo plants, draining them, straining them, so much so that when they went home, their whole fingertips would be indigo. And so she kind of did this as like a paying homage to the ancestors that she had that worked in the indigo fields, right? And so I was like, damn, this color just is coming up everywhere. Like, it's literally everywhere. And when I was going to sleep last night, somebody from the Black priesthood came forward and was like giving me information about indigo and about the importance of that color, and also like telling me like some of the things that they did like back in the day. And it's like I was kind of in and out of sleep, so I couldn't catch it all. I like arrogantly said in my head, oh, you're gonna remember this. I remember fragments of it. So yeah, she was talking about, oh, congrats on your car. But she kept talking about how this is like, there's something very significant about this color, and it has a lot to do with like spiritual elevation and things like that. So I thought that was really interesting. So so it was that as well that came up last night. Now, back to the book from the Pleiadians, because the Pleiadians have low-key been eating me up. All right. I actually haven't talked to them in a couple of days, because they told me that they don't need to talk to me all the time. It's only when really they have something to say. So this book is full of like channel messages from them from the first sitting that I had with them. And so let me just show y'all how thick this is with one sitting. One sitting with them is all of these damn pages, right? And so I have enough material to be talking about this for a while. But yeah, so I kind of want to keep going from the journal, some of the things that I was writing down that they was telling me. So if you were on yesterday we kind of ended with talking about the pain in your body is always going to point you to where you are overcompensating, because your body is always trying to adapt. So where you feel the pain is not the cause of where it is. The cause is in those areas where you feel nothing, or there's no response, where you feel numb or like nothingness. You really would have to understand how to feel energy in your body to understand what I'm saying. Like, as somebody who feels energy very deeply in my body, I can tell where something is inside of my body, because I spend a lot of time putting attention on the inside of my body, So we left off yesterday talking about that. And so I'm just going to keep continue with some of the messages that they was giving me as well. This, I did energy work yesterday night and woke up with back pain and hip pain. Yeah, the energy is probably concentrated somewhere. I'm doing good. Thank you. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. All right. So they said, when you're seeking the truth, you're moving. If you are not seeking the truth, you are no longer moving. Okay. And so that makes me feel like, think about people who are like committed to like Christianity, or people who are super entrenched in like one way of thinking. And it's nothing that you could say to get through to those people. It's because those people are refusing to move. Those people are refusing to evolve. Those people are refusing to transform, And so, yeah, it's 11:44 where I'm at. So 1:44 period. Love that. But so he said, because the person that I'm talking to from the Pleiadians, his name is Paul or something like that, like Paul. But he said, when you're seeking the truth, you're moving. When you are not seeking the truth, you're not moving. Truth is important because at our core, we are awareness. Like, we are awareness, right? So we are what notices. And because we are consciousness, awareness moving through spirit, the truth is the compass. It's showing us the way, right? The truth is what you should be following, right? And since we are also awareness moving through consciousness and spirit embodied into matter, we take action to keep moving towards that truth. And so what they were basically trying to explain to me is like, knowing the truth isn't enough if you do nothing with it. Knowledge is kind of like money. If you don't spend it, it goes somewhere else. Right. And that's why no idea is really original. If you have a brilliant idea, if you do nothing with it, a couple years later, somebody has already invented it because you brought awareness to it, which means you brought awareness to it for the collective, And so if you have all of these truths, but you do nothing with them, you don't express from that truth, you don't create anything from that truth, because again, your water womb needs purpose. It needs to be doing something with the truth. It needs to be moving the truth. Then you're kind of just like wasting your potential. You're standing in place. You're not moving. You're not expanding. You're not growing. So yeah, they also said the stories that we tell ourselves, the meaning making that we do, the blame consciousness that we have are how we spiritual bypass. And they said we pretty much, the West spiritual bypasses when it comes to everything. And so they said the way that we do that is getting attached to the stories that we create to help us to understand what happened, right? We don't realize that some of those stories we create are assumptions. They're not rooted in any truth because we haven't asked for any clarity from other people. And so it's easier sometimes for us to blame other people because then we don't have to deal with how we feel about the situation. And so it's another way for us to spiritual bypass. And we don't realize that that's spiritual bypassing. And so they even let me, hold on, y'all, because it was a page in a book that I was reading because they brought me to this book. Okay. The Pleiadians really, I did a podcast and the podcast person brought me this book, right? This is the book. I showed y'all this the other day, Earth, Pleiadian Keys to the Living Library. Let me go to page 69 because they told me to read this page to y'all. All right. So hold on. Oh no, that's not what I was talking about. Hold on, y'all. Give me 1 second. Because they was talking about like how obsessed we are with blame consciousness, and that's why we can't evolve as a people, because we often dissociate and we don't realize that when you blame somebody else, you are dissociating. It's you trying not to carry the weight of it. You're trying to put the weight somewhere else, instead of just saying, okay, this thing happened, accepting what happened, and learning the lesson from it, moving different because of it. Like we're trying to put it somewhere else, and so hold on. So yeah, they was talking about how we keep getting stuck because we would rather blame somebody else than take inner responsibility. And I was like, oh, that's tea. Because that's true. That's how I feel about, living in this environment, because I've always been a super accountable person. And so I feel like people who are looking for relief, they would just rather it be somebody else's fault so that they can stay comfortable where they are so that they don't have to move, and I hate saying it like that because it makes people feel like I'm saying what they went through wasn't enough, like wasn't important. And that's not what I'm saying, and did this person play a part in what you went through? Absolutely. But there's nothing you can do from putting the blame on somebody else, because then the ball is in their court. The only thing that you could do is take responsibility for the part you played in it, because whether you want to understand it or not, you played a part in some way, and I'm not talking about sexual abuse as a kid. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the moments that you abandon yourself to show up for other people, the moments that you knew that somebody wasn't for you and you stood in place with them anyway. It's refusing to evolve. It's refusing to grow. It's refusing to learn the lesson. If you're blaming somebody else, you're not taking responsibility, right? Is what they were saying to me. And they said we do that all the time. And so we delay our own process all the time because we would rather just put it somewhere else, blame somebody else, right? And so they gave me that. It's the stories that we create and our attachment to the stories. The stories are only supposed to help you to understand your part in it, what lesson it taught you. Once you figure out what the lesson is, the story is no longer significant. You have to dismantle the story and release the story, release the pain, because the only thing you needed out of that was the lesson. The stories are only supposed to help you to understand something, right? They also said sometimes you have to do something until you can't do it no more, because that's how deep the truth is buried, right? And so when how like you could tell somebody like, hey, don't do that, friend, I did that, it didn't work out for me, da, da, da. Sometimes they need to live that shit under tension, is what the Pleiadians are saying. Like sometimes you need to do it until you can't do it anymore, because that's how deep you've buried your truth. And that is equivalent to how deep you've buried your truth. And so like sometimes when we in relationships and we can't leave and we suffering and whatever the case may be, and we choosing to stay, even though we know it's not for us, like sometimes you got to go until you can't go no more so that you could actually see your truth because you've buried it that fucking deep. That was crazy to me because I was like, oh, that changes a lot of things, because there's been certain situations where I'm fully aware of what's going on, but it's like I felt like I could not untangle myself from that, and it was because I had buried my truth that motherfucking deep. So, yikes on a bike is right. So they also said in order to receive abundance in this life, you have to be seeing the beauty in it. You can't see the beauty in yourself if you can't see the beauty in life. As within, so without. The experience is not the issue. Our perspective is. Seeing the beauty is gratitude. Okay. Seeing the beauty in life is it comes through as gratitude. Okay. It's how you open to receive more because your focus is finally on what you do want to happen opposed to what you don't want to happen. Okay. So I asked them, so does that mean that glimmers, which are those moments of like pure joy where you just kind of looking at your life and you're like, damn, I've come a far way. Like I've come such a long way. You know, like are those our yes and triggers are our no? And they said both lead to transformation. So I guess I was trying to make meaning and try to figure out like what's the yes, what's the no, what's the good, what's the bad, and they just like no, they both lead to transformation. There is no good or bad. Like they even told me that some of the things that I experienced, they arranged for it to happen because I was stepping too far out of alignment with my purpose and too far out of alignment with my truth, because your purpose is your truth, is what they were saying. And so to me it was perceived as bad. To me it didn't feel fucking good, but it was what had to happen in order for me to see, you know, or in order for me to decide to be devoted to myself as well. And so they were saying like they both lead to transformation. What I was saying doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter if glimmers are your yes, triggers are your no, because both of them are leading you towards transformation. You're supposed to be moving towards them, even if they are scary or even if they do feel like you're supposed to be moving towards them either way, right? They also said once you know your truth, you can move. Most people, the reason why they standing in place is because they're not searching for their truth. And so until you start search for your truth, until you're willing to look like a fool searching for your truth, you can't move, right? And so they told me, because y'all know I have a soul school called Akara. And Akara is like the space that enters when your thoughts slow down. It's like the space that pulls you into the present moment, right? And so they said once you know your truth, you can move. So soul school is really about discovering your truth so you can live as it. And so they were really defining or redefining like why I was doing what I was doing when it comes to soul school. It's helping people to discover their truth, right? They also said if we are talking about truth, we are talking about the soul's energy, okay? The life force energy, vitality, etc. You generate soul energy based off your desires, okay? The ones aligned with you get the highest manifested energy, joy, bliss, acceptance, gratitude, authenticity. And the ones not aligned with you give you burnout because it generates the least amount of soul energy. And so that's how you know if something is aligned with you or something is not aligned with you. Okay, so let me give that to y'all again because this blew my motherfucking mind. They said if we're talking about truth, we're talking about the soul's energy. That's life force energy, vitality, etc. You generate soul's energy based off your desires, okay? Based off of what you desire, what you actually want. The ones that are aligned with you are going to generate the highest manifested energy, joy, bliss, acceptance, gratitude, authenticity. But the ones not aligned with you are going to give you burnout. So that means that burnout is a sign that you're going in the wrong direction. So you know how there's been many times in my life where I've gotten a job and I was like, I remember I wanted to work in a pharmaceutical sales industry so motherfucking bad because I had a degree in kinesiology. It was the study of how the human body moves, right? I had felt like I had done nothing with my degree after college because I went into sales, you know? So I was like, damn, I ain't do nothing with my degree. Like I would love to work in the medical field. And so Eli Lilly and Company is in my hometown. And so I was like, oh my gosh, it would be so great. It's a top Fortune 500 company, top 5 in this industry. Like, this would be an amazing opportunity. I get into that job, and within 9 months, and I always know within 9 months whether or not a job works for me or doesn't. Sometimes I know a lot sooner than that. But I love this job until I hit the 9 month mark, which is a significant number, by the way, because that's the time that you complete a full cycle. Is 9 months. You complete a full cycle in 9 months. It also is the time for you to birth something new into this reality. That's a full cycle. You need a full 9 months. And so I tend to burn out at every single job at about 9 months. And it don't matter if I like the job, if I like the people, it don't matter what it is. I tend to burn out because it was never aligned with my truth, right? So if you're burning out, it's because you're moving against your truth. Okay. If you have the energy, joy, bliss, acceptance, gratitude after that, means you're going in the right direction, right? So that was T. Don't let that go over your head. They also said every woman is a triple deity: the mother, the maiden, and the crone. And so when I'm about to go into this, I just want y'all to know that when I'm writing this down, sometimes my perception of something gets in the way. Okay. My perception of something gets in the way. So they're trying to channel a message to me, and I'm trying to make sense of what they're saying before I just let them finish the fucking message, right? So there are some things that I write down that later on in this book they clear up. So I just want to tell y'all this, okay? Because when I'm talking about this part, they told me something 7 page later that made this make sense, okay? So I'm just gonna keep reading. So they said every woman is a triple deity: the mother, the maiden, and the crone, meaning that we look at life through 3 different lenses. Okay. Men typically look at life through 1 lens. We look through life at 3 lenses, and that helps us to see the bigger picture. It's kind of like those cameras that have like panorama or whatever so that they can get the full shot. That's us as women. We do that naturally, right? And so they are not people. Oh, okay. So they gave me the mother, the maiden, and crone, and they taught this to me, right? And I told you that now I can hear my higher self, and then I hear my internal self, and then there's my voice as well. And so it's like 3 different voices in my head, right? And so I know the names of those voices is what so they are applying this to me, but I'm sharing it with you so that you can also benefit from it. Okay. So some of this stuff is specific to me, but they are saying like the mother, the maiden, the crone, they're not people. They are access points. Okay. They're access points to different points of awareness. Okay. Something motherly, which is going to be your higher self, the awareness you get from living, that's our part, right? Because we are gaining awareness through what we're living, right? And something ancient and vast, which is your truth. Your truth comes from that ancient and vast side of you, right? So your higher self is the awareness you are embodying. You are the environment she is embodying into. And the crone, or this universal wisdom, lives outside of time and space, but we have access to it because it lives outside of time and space, because time is kind of like a filter that they put on us so that we can recognize that we're all one. Right? Time is what causes the separation. So time is kind of like a spell that they put on us to slow us down so that we don't self-destruct, so that we have enough space to see that we are all connected, and that everything that we're experiencing it as one, even though we have individuality. You know what I'm saying? And so that chrome side of you, that ancient side of you, lives outside of time and space. So it's not limited to the limitations that we experience in this reality, if that makes sense. And so what they were telling me is that me, as the one who is responsible for setting the environment up, that's my only job, is to make sure that they feel safe in this environment coming down into me fully, right? And for me, since my first house is in Libra, safety comes through me learning how to show up for myself, show up for other people without abandoning myself, me bringing balance into the situation, me making sure that I'm in safe environments that feel just and fair, because my rising sign is in Libra. Libra is the environment that I'm creating for these energies to feel safe enough to communicate with me. They said that this whole time I've been hijacking everybody's role. I'm trying to drive the car. I'm trying to control the music. I'm trying to navigate the thing. Like I'm trying to do all these things by weaponizing my survival instincts against them, you know? And so the ego, the ego gets in the way of you letting everybody do their job because we think we need to know the how, the why, the this, the that. Our only job is to make sure the environment feels safe enough for them to come down, which means we have to feel safe in our body. We have to be going through the process of embodiment, right? Which is sensuality, resting in sensuality, allowing your senses or your body to perceive through sensations and feelings and whatever. But we're disembodied because we live in a society that teaches us how to spiritual bypass, right? And so they said we've been weaponizing our survival instincts and hijacking their position when we don't need to hijack their position. It's a relationship. It's like a community of energies working together. The 3 in 1 is what they said. The 3 that comes into 1. And so the light and the dark are not states of beings. Okay. The light and the dark are not states of being, but directions the light is moving. Okay. So the light is moving in the direction of Amara. So anytime that I am trying to expand when it comes to light, I need to be moving into in the direction of Amara, which is my awareness, right? She is the spirit. Sorry. The light is moving in the direction of Amara, which is expanding my awareness. Anytime I want to expand my awareness, I need to move in the direction of my higher self. I need to consult my higher self and listen to what the guidance she's giving me and move in that direction. Do I have free will? Yes. But will I get further in life if I listen? Yes. Right? Because she could see the full picture. I can't. So she's like my eyes outside of this reality. If that makes sense. She can look at the whole thing while we only can see what's in front of us. Right? If that makes sense. So she is spirit and I am making her visible. And so anytime that I'm trying to expand my awareness, I need to follow the guidance of Amara. Okay. I need to move in her direction. Okay. The dark in you is moving in the direction of the crone or the infinite version, infinite wisdom. So we need to be using these to navigate. Anytime you feel far away from your truth, you need to move towards your truth, which is the crone. It's a direction. Move towards the dark, because the dark is the infinite, like dark light, which is the absolute light, by the way. But you need to move in that direction. When you are struggling with expanding, you need to move in the direction of the light, if that makes sense. Who told you she can see everything that you cannot? You literally just explained everything. This is what I channeled from the Pleiadians and from my eternal self. And so this specific thing was me talking to Amara and me talking to my eternal self, because they was coming in simultaneously. So what I was saying before I got to the triple deity part was from the Pleiadians, but this actually came from Amara, who's my higher self, and my eternal self, who doesn't have a name. She just said that she's the eternal. So anyways, so light and dark, the way that we look at it. Oh, that's a bot account. Is it? Oh, well, let me block her, because I only really be talking to a certain group of people anyway. The rest of y'all are just benefiting from me talking to a certain group of people. Let me oh, she says she's definitely she's listening, she's learning. Okay, well then let me I didn't block you, so you're a person, Ladybug Precious. Okay. So the only reason why I know this information is because I'm channeling it from her. And that's what Amara. Okay, you are. Okay. That's what my eternal self and Amara are saying, that without having guidance from them, it's kind of like I'm navigating without having eyes, you know? And so the only reason why I know this information is because I have cleared enough space for them to feel safe enough to embody, and we're having a conversation, you know? All right. So what they're saying is you actually need to be using both to navigate. Okay, that's how we navigate. Is we need to be using the light and the dark, our truth and our higher self who cares about us experiencing pleasure while we're here, right? And so what they said is we experience trauma and freeze. So it's like we take our hands off the wheel the moment that we experience trauma. We experience trauma and freeze. It's like hitting a pothole and turning the car on autopilot so that you can take a break after you hit the pothole, right? Your team is waiting on you to do your part because your oversoul or higher self cannot embody until the environment is safe. Safety is where you rest, and trust is how you move, right? Meaning like trusting something outside of yourself, something that's guiding you. Shame is how you distort your lens, which appears in your foundation, aka your worth. The earth side of you, and they talk about melanin because your worth directly has to do with your earth energy. Okay, your worth is the foundation you build everything on. Okay, and so they said the darkness keeps you honest. The darkness keeps you honest, your truth, which is what we call the crone. Your darkness keeps you honest because anytime you go too far in one direction, you risk performing, and that's what we've been doing as a society. Okay. Hey, Chris. My door just swung wide open. All right. Next, they said stillness is how you build the relationship with your higher self and your infinite self or your eternal self. You have to slow down so you can hear. And they told me yesterday I need to practice listening. And that when I told y'all that the Blue Priestesshood came through while I was asleep. And they were like a group of women who used to take lapis lazuli and they would curate it in a specific way, create this necklace out of it, and go sit in this cave underground for 3 days without food, without water, without anything. And it would be completely dark in this cave. When they would emerge, from this cave, they would have gifts. And so they could smell disease on people. They could see energy. It was like all these different things because it completely darkness. When you put yourself in darkness, it completely reorganizes your perception around healing, around rest. And it's like your body already knows how to do it. And so they would subject themselves to that just so that they could amplify their gifts, right? And they used to use lapis lazuli to do this. And so what they told me was that we need to learn how to practice listening. And that's what they were doing in those caves is they were practicing listening because listening is how you open yourself up to receive. And so many of us do more talking than we do listening, right? And we need to listen so that we could hear energy, so that we could receive from something outside of us. And so stillness is our homeostasis. And I told y'all last time that they told me Pluto, okay, all of this is alleged, all of this is a theory, but they told me Pluto was an android and that Pluto is pulling on our magnetic field. It's pulling on the water in our body. And that's why a lot of us have trouble getting settled and feeling restless. And it's because Pluto's always pulling on our magnetic field. And so it keeps us from stillness because when we're in stillness, we can stay embodied, but because we're constantly being pulled and the waters in our body are constantly being pulled, we can't really settle. It's like the ocean is crashing waves in our body. So stillness is how you build your relationship with your higher self and your eternal self. And they also said the infinite and the eternal self are different, which I'm going to get to in just a second. You have to slow down so you can hear. It's kind of why we stop and turn the music down when we're confused. And so they literally showed me in a car coming up to something. And it's like, I was confused on what directions I was going. And I immediately turned the music down. It's so that I could hear energy. And so I feel like Black people do this all the time. It's like, hold on, everybody, I can't hear, I can't see. Let me turn the music down. It heightens your perception. They also said everyone has to go through spiritual warfare because it's how you get to your truth. It's how you sharpen your discernment, right? Facing yourself is the warfare. Okay? Facing yourself is the warfare. Holding your truth, which is the warfare, is you learning how to hold your truth, right? which a lot of people struggle to see themselves, because they don't want to see the part that they played in their own suffering, right? And so that's why a lot of people just stand in place. And so they said everyone has to go through spiritual warfare because it's how you get to your truth. Facing yourself is the warfare. Holding your truth. So it's initiation, not it's initiation really is not warfare. Your experiences are holding up the mirror to you, meaning like what you experience is showing you what direction you're moving. It's what happens when you move too far from yourself. You dissociate or you fragment. They also said earth energy is how you build the environment, how the planet, hold on, how the planets impact her energy. Wait, hold on. I remember I was supposed to say something right here and I done forgot it. When I was writing it, I said, oh, I'm going to remember this. Anyways, okay, earth energy is how you build the environment. So you need to look at how the planets impact Earth's energy, okay? Because you need to understand what's happening with Earth in order for you to understand what can be done and what can't be done, in order for you to get in energy or flow with her energy, right? And so you need to understand how the planets are impacting her energy at that moment, because Earth energy is how you build the safe environment. If it's a time where Saturn is opposed Pluto or something crazy is going on in that motherfucking sky and it's impacting Earth's energy, it's going to be like you running through mud if you're trying to manifest during a time when you're supposed to be going through a death cycle, right? And so they said we need to understand how the planets are impacting the Earth. We also need to get to know her plants because, and this is where they start talking a little bit about root work. But they were talking about we need to get to know her plants because plants are way more intelligent than we understand them to be. And that we need to constantly be engaging with Earth's energy every single day. And so there are spirits in the plants, just like there's spirits in us. And really what they explained to me is that when everything hit the fan, because all these stories that we be learning about, like the Anunnaki and this, all of those are stories from this place, right? However, we be trying to figure out one or the other. No, it's all of those things were happening. All of those things were happening, right? And so they was telling me that when we fell in consciousness, they put everything that we needed to know in the plants, in the trees, in the stones. They literally programmed crystals with consciousness and information. And so everything on earth is living. Everything on earth is living. It has consciousness and awareness in it. And so we need to be connecting with the plants because the plants will tell us how to heal ourselves. That's what they used to do indigenously. And that's how they knew mugworts was for dreams and this was for that. It's because they talked to the fucking plants, right? And so they were saying we need to get to know her plants. We also need to know, because plants are how she chooses to embody her light. She embodies her light through the plants, but we don't realize that we're walking plants, right? We're walking plants of earth, right? And so she said, help her by embodying your light so then she can evolve. So earth actually evolves through our embodiment. The more safe that you feel, the more light you can bring down, the more light you can transmit, the more she can elevate, right? And so you can get light from her by eating plants, right? And by working with her roots, by building a relationship with her shadows / her spirits as well. And that's where you go from root work to conjure work. Not everybody's a conjurer though. So, but she talks about she has spirits on this earth, which are everybody who has died. Everybody who has died here is still here in her frequency, anchored into her truth, right? And so that's why your ancestors are important, because they've already lived this experience. So that means that they have embodied truth through their lived experience that they can help you with. And once they pass away, they anchor into Earth's grid. So your ancestors really sit below you, like underneath your feet, right? And when you can talk to those spirits, they can teach you, they can guide you, they can show you the way, they can whatever, because they've already lived the experience, right? And so she was talking about that, building a relationship with her spirits, because they're former incarnations of Earth. Our ancestors are what Earth needed at that moment, right? And so there's stories, like every single ancestor is a story, is what she was telling me. It's like every ancestor is a story. That root work is something you have to tread lightly with. Okay. I never heard someone speak in third person so much, and it makes so much sense. All right. Anyways, so Okay, where am I at? So you have to engage with her every chance you get to build an environment that's safe in her domain, right? And so, um, because you're working with Earth's energy, right? Everything that you do is with Earth's energy. And so you have to engage with her every single day to make shit move in her plane because this is her shit, right? And so she is a body, is what they told me. She is a body, and we are living in her body. Just like our body rejects incoherent cells, which is what we call cancer. Cancer comes from suppression, right? Things that are refusing to move, suppression. Just like our body rejects incoherent cells, she will reject us if we are incoherent. Okay. And for some reason that people showing up with cancer or people, so they was kind of explaining to me like how we built these cities, right? And how the cities are really a bunch of people coming together, and that every single person is like a cell in her body. And so you know how we clump together, or how cells clump together, and we call that cancer. When we clump together in these cities, we start getting disease, we start getting plagues, we start getting, it's cancer. So I just want to put that out there. So she also talked about the book. Where is it at? I don't know if it's up here, but she talked about the book Women Who Run with Wolves. If you want to deepen your relationship with the infinite self, you need to read that book. Your intuition, you need to read that book. Your truth, you need to read that book, Women Who Run with Wolves, which is crazy because they brought that book into my reality like 2 years ago, and it's one of my favorite books. So next, the eternal self. This was the eternal self talking to me. She said, we've been too busy trying to possess her, talking about Earth. We've been too busy trying to possess her rather than working with her. Spiritual warfare is you becoming cancer. Spiritual warfare is you becoming cancer. Living too far in the infinite or in the possibilities. Because it means you're not grounded in Earth's energy. And so a lot of times when people experience like schizophrenia, right? Or because, you know, sometimes trauma can cause schizophrenia, trauma can cause BPD, trauma can cause like these mental disorders. But really, we don't realize that that's us fragmenting and us dissociating from Earth's energy. We go way too far into the spiritual realm, which is possibilities. We go into way too far into the infinite and we get lost. It's like being lost out in sea. It's too vast for you to conceive all of that light at one time, especially when you're not able to integrate it. And so when you're dealing with schizophrenia, BPD, or anything like that, you need to be grounding every single day. Like there is a way to come back from that. But you have to ground yourself in Earth's energy. You have to engage with Earth's energy every single day, because what's happening is like you're like half out of your body. Like you're out of your body, but your body is still here. And that's why sometimes like when people are experiencing that, they'll say like, it's like I'm watching myself from the outside. It's because you are. Your light is supposed to be in your body. But when you have gone through trauma, what happens is our astral body tries to run back to the astral plane, and it leaves like rips and tears and holes in our energy. And eventually we're not in our body anymore because we don't feel safe to be in our body because of the trauma, because of the intense emotion, because of whatever the case may be. And so, what she was saying is we need to anchor back into Earth's energy, because Earth is what helps stabilize us. Earth's energy is what helps stabilize us. Okay. Also, they said journaling is, I had very vivid experiences of dissociating as a child. Yeah, I could see that. Because I think kids are just a lot more fragile than adults, because kids are missing perspective, you know. If they don't have anybody guiding them through their emotional landscape, and people just treating their emotions like an inconvenience, you know, a lot of times you're just going to dissociate because that's the only way you can feel safe. So they also said journaling is spiritual maintenance. Okay. They said journaling is spiritual maintenance. It's how you keep track of your direction, the direction you're moving, which is your experiences. Your experiences are showing you what direction you're moving. And so if something keeps coming up in your life, you need to be asking yourself why. What part of me keeps needing to see this? What am I not seeing in this experience, right? And so it keeps track of your direction and your progress. So even in the rain, you can remember the sun is still coming. Okay. And so it keeps track of your progress and how far you've been. And so they kind of were showing me, like, looking back in your journal like years later and being like, oh my gosh, I remember when I felt this. This feels so far away. You know, it shows you how much progress you're making, even though when you don't feel like you're making progress. In those moments where you're kind of in this energy of self-loathing, you can always pull out your journal and recognize how far you've come. You know, like that's how they were kind of giving it to me. So they said journaling is spiritual maintenance. And it also helps with alchemy as well. They also said clarity is the vehicle we use when we express. So that means that every time that you open your mouth, it needs to be coming from clarity. It cannot be coming from the emotion itself. So clarity is something that comes after an emotion has passed. And so if you are speaking while the emotion is still present there and the emotion has not passed you yet, then you're not speaking from clarity. You're speaking from your wounds, right? And so some of us are able to hold more than most people because we've done enough work. And so an emotion is only supposed to last for about 19 seconds, okay? Once it passed that 19 seconds, you should be able to articulate how you feel if you've done enough work. If you haven't done enough work and it lasts longer than 19 seconds, it's because you've attached it to a memory, something you're trying to avoid. And now you're triggered in this situation because somebody is bringing up an emotion you don't want to feel because you tied it to an event, right? And so clarity is the vehicle we use when we express. Clarity comes from lived experience. You don't get clarity until you live it. So if you only understand something as a concept, like for example, women can only understand men as a concept. Why? Because we've never lived as a man. We don't know the intricacies and the details of being a man because we've never lived as a man. So we can never speak from the experience of a man. We can only speak about men as a concept, you know? We can speak about our experience as a woman interacting with a man, but we can never speak from the lens of a man because we have not lived as a man. You know what I'm saying? And so what they're saying is clarity comes from lived experience, which means that you have to have felt the experience. Okay. Because I also think you live in the experience is not enough if you're disconnected because you can't feel anything. If you're numb, you can't feel anything. So it's not impacting you. It's not affecting you because you don't feel the feeling, you know? And that's why they say lack of compassion is you trying to bypass the human experience, because compassion comes from you being able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. If you have not felt the feeling that they felt, you're not going to have compassion for this situation, you know? And so that's you trying to live above the human experience. And so clarity is the vehicle we use when we express. Clarity comes from lived experience and internal alchemy, meaning like you have had to have alchemized the emotion and the experience. Clarity is how consciousness expresses wisdom. Clarity is how consciousness expresses wisdom. Wisdom is the application of information and understanding, what you learned from what your experience was. Thought and feeling coming together so that you can take the appropriate action. So clarity is how consciousness expresses wisdom. If you are not clear because you're assuming something, because this is where we get lost. Say, for instance, you are talking to a friend. Your friend says something that triggers you. Most people in this reality, because we are spiritually bypassing, because we don't want to be seen as emotionally exposed or emotionally vulnerable, what most people will do is they'll get triggered by something. They'll either blow up in that moment, walk away, cut the person off, or they'll just walk away altogether, go home, ruminate in the shoulda, coulda, wouldas of what they thought the experience should have been. And then they look at all their previous experiences and say, you know what? I know exactly where this is going to go. So I don't even got to have a conversation with this person. I'm just going to cut them off, right? When what you should do is, if you're triggered in a situation, before you just react to the situation, because reactivity is unintegrated shadow. Reactivity is what happens when you have not integrated your pain and your trauma, right? Reactivity is what happens when you're emotionally volatile. Okay. And so instead of reacting, you need to respond, which means you need to pause. You need a kara. You need a space in between your thoughts. Okay. So what I would do is say, hey, I need a second. I'm having trouble processing this. Walk away. When you do walk away, figure out when the first time you felt this feeling. You need to identify the feeling that you're feeling. A lot of times it's powerlessness. It could be abandonment. It could be whatever. Figure out what you're feeling when the first time you felt that, because a lot of times you're reacting to everybody who made you feel that way instead of the person who's standing in front of you, which is unfair, by the way. And so once you figure out how you feel and what the semantics are behind it and all of those things, what was the root cause, what's actually this person's, the only thing you say when you go back to a person is your truth. The only truth that you have is how somebody made you feel. Everything else that you decide about that truth is you trying to make meaning. It's you operating out of assumption and what you've been through. Okay. It has nothing to do with that person. And so when I go and I communicate to somebody, it's always, this is the scenario. This is how it made me feel. What was your intention? I'm asking them for clarity. So if I decide to cut you off, it's because of how you responded to me when I was giving you an opportunity to hold yourself accountable and when I chose to be emotionally vulnerable about how you were impacting me. Right? And so you go to that person, this is the scenario, this is how it made me feel. What was your intention? And there's going to be one or two responses. Either it's going to be a good conversation and you're going to leave feeling good. They're going to hold themselves accountable and they're going to say, oh, I didn't know that impacted you, whatever the case may be. Or they're going to say, oh, you're insensitive, you're this, you're that, or they're going to reject you. If somebody is rejecting you, it's because they refuse to change. They're refusing to change. Okay? If somebody is rejecting you, it's because they're refusing to change. Somebody who is refusing to change is going to be determined to misunderstand you. Because the consequence of them understanding you is that they would have to become a different person. They don't want to do the work of that. And so they need to blame you. They need to reject you. They're not rejecting you. They're rejecting change. You have to be of the wiser. And this is why you can't be in a fix and saving energy. It's not your job to fix and save people. If you coming from a fix and saving energy, you're going to spend so much of your time trying to convince them, trying to prove it to them, trying to get them to understand where you're coming from. A motherfucker who don't want to change is not going to understand you. It's going to be like beating a dead fucking horse. So you need to recognize, oh, this person doesn't want to change. That is the clarity you need to get the fuck on. But until you have the conversation, you don't have that clarity. You treat everybody based off of how other people treated you. That has nothing to do with that person. And so many people are terrified of emotional vulnerability because they don't want to feel exposed. They don't want to be seen as weak. They don't want to be seen as somebody who is sensitive. Sensitivity is how you get to your gifts. Sensitivity is what you are. When you expand your awareness, you become more sensitive. You know? So clarity is how you express wisdom. If you're not moving out of clarity, you're not moving out of wisdom. You're moving out of your wounds. Wisdom is the truth. What happens when you apply understanding and information? Okay? So they also said our attachments are portals meant to lead towards expansion, but they can only be viewed through the lens of curiosity. Okay? So I'm going to run that back. The things that we are attached to are portals meant to lead towards expansion, but they can only be viewed through the lens of curiosity. Okay? Curiosity and bravery are how you cross the threshold to sacred detachment. Okay? And so let me explain that. The things that we are attached to is the things that we are over-identified with. Okay? If we're attached to something, it's because we're over-identifying with it. Okay? It means something to us in some capacity. Right? We need to explore with curiosity in order for us to expand. Okay. So the way that I was seeing this is like, I have a little bit of an obsessive personality. A little bit is me lying. It's a lot of it. It's very obsessive. Okay. I get fixated on things because I'm a fixed sign. So I get fixated. Right. And so sometimes like I'll see a billboard, I'll see something and I can't take my eyes off of it. It's like I'm attached to it. Like I can't move from it, or somebody say something to me and it stick to me like smoke, right? That shit is a portal back to you, back to your truth. Every single time that you have that moment where it's just like, I can't get this off of me. I don't know what the fuck this is. It's like it's attached to you. Scorpio sun, Libra rising. See, I'm a Taurus sun, a Scorpio moon, a Libra rising, you know? And so I got 6 fixed placements out of 10, 6 of them motherfuckers is fixed. Okay. So I tend to fixate, which they're going to talk about that in this book. I mean, in this, once we keep going, y'all gonna understand. But anyways, So they said the things that you're attached to are portals meant to lead towards expansion, but they can only be viewed from the lens of curiosity. Like you have to look at it from a curious lens. It cannot be looked at from fear or you trying to protect yourself from experiencing something. Because I did a cat, y'all. So I've been doing animal communication because I recently have been on some Dr. Doolittle shit. I found out that I could talk to animals, and I haven't stopped talking to the motherfucker since because the animals know way more than us. They know way more than us. And so I just did a little small session with an animal today. And let me tell you what this animal said about death. Hold on. I asked them, is there any piece of advice that you have for us, that would help humans to evolve? And they said, death is not final. We spend so much time trying to avoid death or changing. Wait, hold on. We spend so much time trying to avoid. What the fuck is this word? Hold on. Wait, I can't even read my handwriting because when I am channeling sometimes it's like scribble scrabble. But anyways, okay, death is not final. We spend so much time trying to avoid death. Something to things be this fear of loss. Okay, anyways, we spend so much time trying to avoid death or anyways, hold on. I'm going to get there because this was important. But they said we have this fear of loss or perceived loss when we are never without what is for us. Humans are so clingy. Is what this cat said. First of all, this cat was very like they said, they don't like the concept of adulting because adulting is so boring. I was just like, okay. But he was like, humans are so clingy. There is no yours. Nothing belongs to you but your truth. Death can't be avoided. It comes for all of us here. Stop worrying so much about the after because you are missing the now part, the living part. That's what he said. He said, and he also said, I hate the concept of adulting. Boring. I was like, okay. But anyways, curiosity and bravery, meaning like when you experience fear, it's okay for you to experience that fear, right? I don't know how to explain that to you, my love. It's just something I can do. I think there's a lot of people who can do, who just know how to do that. So I don't know how to explain that to you. But they said curiosity and bravery are how you cross the threshold of fear into sacred detachment. Okay. So basically, the beginning of your life, you are just playing Marco Polo. This is what I said to them. So basically, the beginning of your life, you're just playing Marco Polo with your oversoul and higher self. And until you discover your truth, your higher self will wait lovingly, but sometimes begrudgingly, is what I said. And they were like, the crone and the mother are two sides of the same coin. Together they make up your oversoul, meaning like your oversoul is your higher self and the eternal self combined, right? And so they said the crone and the mother are two sides of the same coin. Together they make up your oversoul, the bandwidth of consciousness you are embodying. You need both, but we have demonized one. And so they were showing me that picture of the devil and the angel on the shoulder. The angel being your higher self, the devil being your eternal self. Like we literally are taught to demonize our truth. We are literally taught to demonize our truth, right? Because they're trying to control our truth through what they teach us, educate. All of that is them trying to control our truth, what we believe, right? And so one has been demonized, and that's the eternal self, the crone. Spirits of the dark, which they said were death spirit, like spirits of death, spirits of the dark, death or transformation, right? Those are those spirits. Hecate, Lilith, the Morrigan, they said Saint Morte, all those energies. A lot of them are dark fem. A lot of them dark fem energies have been demonized, and so they said you're not one or the other. You are both. Okay, and so that's when they went into your sun being your higher self, your moon being your eternal self, and then the rising sign being the environment that you're creating so that those two energies can come down. Because that those two energies, your sun and your moon, make up your oversoul. It's the archetype that you're moving through, right? And so they said astrology is being used as a tool of judgment and separation, or a personality tool, because we're looking at everything through this very mental or masculine lens, when it is the energy through which you view and build life. So it's showing you what your consciousness does. Okay. And so masculine, we're looking at through this mental or masculine lens. When it's the energy through which we view and build life, it tells you what lens you use based on the area you are navigating. It's the celestial map. Then they said dark femme energy drives the car. The eternal self, which is the intuition, and the higher self tells us what we need to feel safe and loved. How do we have a good time while we are here is what your higher self is doing. So it's about pleasure and beauty and desire. So our higher self is usually like, well, my higher self is Venus energy, right? Venus is trying to teach you how to live well. So my specific higher self, the archetype that I'm playing out, is trying to figure out how to live well, how to experience pleasure without getting overly attached to things. And so she's got the snacks, is what they said. She's got the snacks in the car. Then we are the vibe of the car. Okay. We're like the GPS controlling where we're going, and we're trying to do everybody's job with our, she said, with your over functioning ass. But I be getting cussed out all the time. So it's just, so she said, you be trying to do everybody's job with your over functioning ass. So, they did tell me that we can use what the ancient Egyptians used, the deities, to study how to embody, or the goal for us, because the archetypes that the Egyptians created were meant to show you all the different oversouls and the different polarities of energy. And so we can use mythology. We can use the deities to figure out what direction we're moving, because the main deities are associated with planets, right? And so let me just, because I got notes here and I got notes in my phone as well. Let me just, all right. So for example, deities that are associated with the sun are going to be like Ra, Apollo, Sol, which is Norse, Lu, which is Celtic, Sarah, which is Hindu, Inti, which is the Incan, and then Amaterasu, which is Japanese. The moon goddesses are going to be Isis, which is Egyptian, Artemis, which is Greek, Selene, which is Greek, Diana, which is Roman, Yemiya, which is Yoruba, Changi, which is Chinese, Sukuyami, which is Japanese, or Mani, which is Norse. Mercury is Hermes, which is Greek, Mercury, which is Roman, Thoth, which is Egyptian, Ishu or Isu, which is Yoruba, Odin, which is Norse, or I don't know what that last one is, but it's Santeria. Venus is going to be Aphrodite, Venus, Hathor, Oshun, Freya, Lakshmi, Ashtar, Inanna. Mars is Aries, Mars, Sekhmet, Ogun, Kartikeya or Tyre, which is Norse. Jupiter is Zeus, Jupiter, Ammon. Before it was Ammon Ra. Ammon is separate than Ammon Ra, but they put them together under Akhenaten. But Thor, Shango, Marduk, which is Babylonian, etc. Right? You can look at those. Hold on, let me go back up. Moon, 2 energy was Yemiya, which is an energy of integration. Okay. But yeah, you can kind of look up it don't matter which mythology you want to use, but you can kind of look these up, and it shows you the energy that you're supposed to be embodying, or some of the things that you'll experience. And so some of the stories within the stories are meant to help us to move back towards ourselves. And so the Egyptians never looked at their gods as like gods. They looked at them as like archetypes that we play out. And one thing that Spirit told me is until you learn your lesson from the archetype, it just keeps repeating. The story just keeps repeating. And that's why sometimes you can meet a different person and they treat you the same way somebody else treated you, is because the archetype keeps playing out until you choose differently, right? And so they said that we are the three that becomes one through incarnation. So you have three consciousnesses that are sharing one body, three lenses: spirit, matter, awareness. Soul is the energy you generate when you become aware of your truth. And so you don't have a soul. You generate soul energy when you align with your truth. Okay? Does that make sense? And so everything is consciousness carrying awareness. Amara is the consciousness of my body. She's trying to help me to live well. Hakati is the consciousness of my heart, which is my truth. And then soul energy comes from your truth, right? And that's why your womb needs a purpose, because soul energy is generated from your truth, which is your water womb, which is your sacral, which is curiosity, courage. It's so creativity, emotional energy, sexual energy, like, and they also started talking to me about sex too. We have no fucking idea what sex is. We have no fucking idea how fucking powerful we are. But I'm gonna talk about that another day. So, your soul energy comes from your truth, and you are the consciousness of the womb. We are the consciousness of our womb, and that's why we need purpose, because we are our water womb, right? We're all three of them, but the environment. Your womb is the environment that you need to make safe. Your womb is the environment you need to make safe so that you can embody your light. And so if you have shame around being a woman, if you have shame around being a sexual being, your environment is not safe. Therefore, your light cannot embody. And so what's interesting is I had a client that I was working with, and I was teaching her gifts. And I don't know why I kept on saying, I don't know why I feel like you're pulling from your womb, like you're reading from your womb. That was strange to me back then. Now I understand, because the environment that the light has to embody into is your womb. Okay. So womb health, your womb health is directly related to your environment and what you let through the gate. And that's why you can't let everybody fuck on you. Okay. Because your womb health is directly related to your environment, your safety, your ability to feel safe, and what you let through the gate. Okay. You always have a womb. You have whatever exists physically exists energetically as well. Okay. I'm not saying that you don't need to be celibate. I'm saying rock the lady in a boat, but do it with the intention of expanding your awareness. You don't need another person to be there. Okay. But they also told me that vibrators fuck up the vibration of our womb. It literally disrupts the energy, and it twists it into like a knot or some shit like that. So use your hands, but you don't need another person. But there's also an energy that you get though when you use another person though, because some of us can channel emotional energy. Some of us can like, depending on how our human design is set up. Some of us also only channel life force energy from other people too. And so, yeah. It's okay. You can love that rose, but balance, sister, because it's twisting up your motherfucking insides. It's what they told me. It's like literally sending your motherfucker on superpower. Even though it'll get you there quick, you don't need to get there quick, because you need to have an intimate relationship with your body, is what they told me. You have to have an intimate relationship with your womb. And that's why we also shouldn't be, they was telling me that I shouldn't be using like tampons and stuff like that, because we need an intimate relation with our wombs. Like I should be using a cup. I should be getting up in there, but that's a whole nother story. But that's just what I've been told. It's a sacred part of us, and we need to have an intimate relationship with ourselves. Before other people are involved, we should have an intimate relationship with ourselves. And messes with your nerve points too. Yes. That's what they were saying. Like it twisted up in a ball or some shit like that. Yes, a menstrual cup. So they also said you have to go through the spiritual world to reach your truth. Okay. And that's where the spiritual world, you have to go through the spiritual world to reach your truth, because the spiritual world is the infinite, right? Truth, sorry. Yeah. Earth is the closest to the spiritual world, okay? Because Earth is the spiritual world. They're mirrors of each other. The spiritual world I'm talking about is Neptune. Neptune is the spiritual world, okay? We gon' we're gonna get into that later, because I still need to channel the rest of that message, because that was giving me so much fucking information. That was telling me it's only 9 zodiacs, it's only 3 chakras, it's only it was just boggling me. It was too much to take in at one time. But anyways, so you have to go through the spiritual world to reach your truth, because your truth is in the infinite. Okay. Because the spiritual world is the infinite. Earth is the closest thing to the spiritual world. And that's why everybody's like trying to be on Earth or trying to work with energies that are already on Earth. I don't need y'all to tell me if y'all feel like I'm right or I'm not right, because I genuinely don't care if people perceive or receive this as being their truth. I'm only giving you another alternative, my truth from my perspective. But yeah, feel into what I'm saying, and if it feels true for you, great. But if it doesn't, that's okay. Okay. So they said safe passage in the spiritual world requires authenticity, respect, and devotion. Okay. And so safe passage requires authenticity, respect, and devotion. Okay. So remember, if you want to get to the truth, you have to go through the spiritual world. If you want safe passage in the spiritual world, you have to be being authentic, operating from your truth. You have to be respectful, right? You need to be respectful to the spirits, because the spirits are meant to teach you. And you also need to be devoted to yourself. Okay, which means growth, to your own growth, to your own involvement, to the search of your truth, right? And so you can't just take and dominate through force in the spiritual realm. You have to learn to flow, because the spiritual realm is water. It's an oceanic frequency. Spirits, which are memories or stories, aka our ancestors. If you work with the spirits instead of disturbing them, you'll get a lot farther. Engage with the world around you, and they will share their wisdom and teach you the ways of living. They are a great source because they have been through it, but you have to engage with them through the dark feminine energy, aka the dark empath, meaning like your compassion has to have boundaries. You need to, like, it's the spiritual world will teach you discernment. No, this is messages that I'm channeling. Okay. Compassion, self-worth, self-respect with boundaries. That's what you need to learn, right? You have to have compassion, self-worth, and self-respect with boundaries. Okay. Lilith told me she can't help me until I got some self-worth, and Hecate told me I don't have relationship issues, I have self-respect issues. A lot of the spirits will help you, but you got to have those basic things first. Okay. Mythology is important because it gives us the archetypes of many masks of the same energy so that we can use them to study patterns, right? They said death is the teacher, or the spiritual world is the teacher. We came here to learn from the spirits. That's why we came to Earth, because Earth and the spiritual world are the same worlds, right? They're mirrors of each other. So us working with the spiritual world is how we remember our truth, okay? Living is how you express that truth. But we need death and birth. We need both, because death is how we figure out what our truth is, going through the spiritual world, death, spiritual world, death, spiritual world, right? But living is how we express that truth, how we bring that light back into this reality, right? And so we feel our way through remembrance. We use thoughts in our higher self to organize ourselves around that truth, okay? Your moon sign is how your soul embodies your truth behind the veil. The how, your integrity. Your moon sign is your integrity. Sexual energy has to be moved when it comes up. Otherwise, you'll block or distort your connection to everything. Because water, right? Spirits live in the water. So your water womb, which needs purpose, it's your truth. spiritual world inside of you. Okay. So horniness, they told me horniness is what happens when you have too much built up energy blocking the portal. Okay. So when you get horny, you have too much energy blocking your womb portal, your water portal. Use it to create or to manifest. They say use it to create or manifest everything. No. Yeah, use it to create or manifest. What else did they say? So they said grief or sadness or crying is how you clear this portal. So anytime you have to cry is because you have too much energy on your void womb. Okay, horny. Anytime you're horny, your womb is blocked. This water womb. Anytime that you have grief or sadness trying to come up, anytime you need to cry is because this is blocked. I don't care if you disagree. I do not care. I keep telling y'all that. I'm sharing the truth from my perspective. You can either benefit from it or you cannot. It doesn't matter. Okay. So when you need to cry or you have grief, you're trying to clear this portal. When you have a headache, you're trying to clear this portal. Okay. So earth is the still point between spirit and matter. It's the tension between spirit and matter. Okay. And so earth is kind of like the void womb we have right here. This will be on YouTube afterwards, y'all. But earth is like the void womb we have here, right? So when technically with earth being a body, we are inside of earth's heart space, inside of her neutral zone, you know, where spirit and matter come together. We're literally in presence with earth, if that makes sense. And so everything is you because everything is consciousness or a spirit. Okay. What they used to call back in the day daemons, which are, we call them demons now, but it used to be DAIMONs. They are just mind without a body. Okay. These are just minds without a body. It's another expression of you, earth's energy embodied. Okay. But they are their own expression of consciousness. Okay. Free will to direct themselves based on their truth. And so when they say like everything is you, they're saying everything is consciousness, like you are consciousness. It does not mean that it's physically you because you still have your individuality. You're a still point of one specific aspect of consciousness, you know? And so everything is you because everything is consciousness and you are consciousness experiencing yourself, but everything has its own individuality too, if that makes sense. My YouTube is BIGTAJJ. Okay. So there are many methods of pathways to waking up, is what they said. There are many methods of pathways to waking up. I woke up through this process called begonia. And begonia, what's crazy is when I was talking about that billboard that I saw, I was like driving through Hollywood or whatever, and I seen this billboard that was like begonia on it, and it's a movie or whatever. Somebody told me that I need to watch it because for the spiritual implications, but I just haven't got around to it, right? Yeah, like the movie. And so what's crazy is it stuck to me like smoke. I could not let go of it. And even when I was sitting at the light, I couldn't stop staring at the word begonia. So I go to sleep and I wake up the next day and I hear the word begonia again. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, why? And so I look it up, like the ancient, so begonia was an ancient ritual that they used to do, right? No, I can see you, unicorn. Begonia was an ancient ritual that they used to do. And what they would do is sacrifice a bull. Okay. They would sacrifice a bull. I'm a Taurus, by the way. They would sacrifice a bull and they would take this bull and put it in like a cave and they would cover it in mud. And then after a while, bees would randomly emerge from this bull. Like, and they don't know how the fucking bees got inside of this bull, but it used to, like, bees used to just come out the dead body after a while, and it happened every single time. And so it was like a process of like rebirth where you fully die, but then life comes out of the carcass, right? And so I kept asking spirit, like, well, why are you bringing this to me? Why is this important to me? And I had told y'all that I went through like a magic attack. Somebody attacked me from what I was saying online, right? When I went through that attack, it smelled like death inside of my body. Like, I cannot explain to you. If you ain't never smelled magic, or like if you ain't never smelled like an entity, it smells dead. It smells like a carcass. It smells terrible, you know? And so like I was smelling that inside of my body, and I was doing healing work. I was doing sound healing and stuff like that, because again, like I had a really bad attack. And so they was telling me I was going through the process of Begonia, the bull who dies and then births life. And I was just like, okay, that's interesting. And so I asked them, was it like the Phoenix path where you return from the ashes? And they say, yes, that's another path that people follow, is the Phoenix path. And like the stories that we hear about some of these ancient rituals that they did were talking about the processes that we go through to awaken to ourselves, which I thought was interesting. And so they said some people wake up through the Phoenix energy, which is similar but different. Okay. They also said between the hours of 5 to 8, which is a 3-hour period, is the threshold. So if you're doing like spiritual work, doing it like between 5 and 8 in the morning, or 5 and 8 in the afternoon is best. I don't know. They only gave me the Begonia path. And so what I'm sharing is the truth from my perspective. And so this is what Spirit is giving me about me. And I'm just sharing it with y'all because I just think that we could benefit from sharing our truth with each other, or what we believe in that moment. Because I'm the type of person, I'm not tied to one truth. And I've never been tied to one truth. I think that our truth is supposed to grow and expand as we grow and expand. And so what I'm sharing with y'all is where I am right now. This is where I am right now. This is what I believe right now. But there is still a plethora of space for that to move and evolve and grow. Right. So I didn't ask them that question because they were talking about me specifically. I'm just sharing this with y'all in case, you know, somebody is experiencing something similar to what I'm going through. They also said spiritual bypassing is bypassing the spirit. Living amongst the dead is what they said. We oftentimes are living amongst the dead because we're staying in the spiritual realm, which is the realm of possibility, because it's infinite. So we like to live in the possibility, the shoulda, coulda, woulda. Well, I should be further along. All of that is us living in possibilities instead of what is, right? And so they said spiritual bypassing is bypassing the spirit, living amongst the dead, learning spirituality through them. Learning spirituality through them, which is the spirits. The mind is all is the mind. So does that mean the mind is what develops through lived experience? And they said, the old informs the new, but the new creates their reality using the old's wisdom to heal the past. So let me run that back. So learning spirituality, we're supposed to learn spirituality through the dead because they are in the spiritual realm. You know what I'm saying? And so we're supposed to learn spirituality through them, through our ancestors, the people who have passed on, like, you know. And so the mind is all, which is your spiritual side. The mind is spirit. Okay. So the mind is all is the mind. So I asked them, does that mean the mind is developed through lived experience? And they said the old informs the new, but the new creates their reality using the old's wisdom to heal the past. Living what they didn't get a chance to live because their experiences or circumstances were different, or they didn't make it in their experience. We are teaching / evolving the dead through embodiment, and they are evolving us through the past. That's how we learn and evolve together, through witnessing. And so it was kind of telling me that like history is not supposed to come from us. History is supposed to come from the people who lived it because they have the accounts of what actually fucking went down. History, the way that we see it, is based off of who won. Whoever won is who told the story. So it doesn't always contain truth and accountability and, you know, things like that. And so they said we're supposed to be learning that truth, the history of things, through the spirits, not through the people who are here right now, because we don't know. You know what I'm saying? And so they also said 25 is when you start to notice the spiritual world. And so y'all know how I'm always talking about us going through that threshold at 25, where you go from trauma to you starting to heal. The difference, the thing that happens at 25 is that you open up to the spiritual realm. That's what happens at 25. You are now open to the spiritual realm. And so they said 25 is when you start to notice spirit. And that's why in ancient civilizations and like mysticism and stuff like that, yeah, 25 is an interesting year for sure. That's when everybody begins their journey at 25. And so at 25, you go through that threshold. And 25 is when you first start to notice spirit. So the ancient civilizations, like the mystic schools or the mysticism schools, or like the secret societies, whatever, they wouldn't allow you to be initiated until 25. Now 25 is also when your prefrontal cortex fully develops, and so I think the prefrontal cortex has something to do with the spiritual realm, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure. Okay, that's just a theory. A lot of this, what I'm saying, is just a theory. Okay, and so you've lived enough to develop an opinion, is what they said. So 25 is when you start to know the spirit. You've lived enough to actually develop an opinion, conceptual knowing, right? 25 through 30 is what you are. Sorry, 25 through 30 is what are you going to do with what you know now, is when the questioning stage starts. So that's when spirit activates, right? You start questioning things, and questioning is the possibilities, okay? And so 33 is when you start moving towards your truth and living from that truth. And that's when embodiment actually starts, meaning like you are actually embodying your truth. So I think between 25 and 30, really, I would say 33, you're trying to figure out what your truth is. That's why you're looking back at your belief systems. You're looking at your family and you're just like, what the fuck did y'all do? I don't like none of this shit. I don't want to do shit how y'all do shit. You know, you start looking at your friends, all of that stuff. So 33 is when you start moving towards your truth, meaning like embodying it, like actually taking action on your truth. And living from your truth. Embodiment starts. 33 to 36 is integration of your truth. And so you go through the stage of applied knowing, where you're practicing between 33 and 36, being who you actually say that you are. Like you're practicing living from your truth between 33 and 36. How many more pages? Oh, I got a lot of motherfucking pages. All right. So let me just stop for a second, because I see a lot of comments coming through. And I kind of want to go back and look at what y'all was saying. Again, if you just came in, these are messages and downloads that I'm getting either from the Pleiadians or from my eternal self. But some of it is clear, like some of the stuff that I come to is cleared up later on in the book, meaning like sometimes my ego gets involved while they're trying to tell me something, because I'm trying to understand what they're saying. And so sometimes I can get the message a little skewed, but later on in our conversation, they end up clearing up whatever I didn't understand. This is my channel messages, y'all. This is just a notebook that I have full of messages that I'm getting from my spirit team. It's not something that's out or anything like that. It's my notes. Okay. It's my work. I'm just sharing it with y'all. So yeah, so some of this stuff, when I'm explaining it at the beginning, is because I don't fully understand it until something they tell me later on in the book. Okay. Or later on in me writing it down. Okay. All right. But that's the messages I'm getting from Pleiadians, my eternal self, my higher self. At the beginning, when we first started, I talked about Persephone and what she was saying about our womb needing purpose. So I'm just kind of like, as I'm getting these messages, as I'm getting things, I'm just sharing them with people, because it's like true from my perspective. My womb needs a purpose. I'm trying to fulfill that purpose in my womb. But I'm still very much so in a learning and a growing state. And that's why I say everything that I say is a theory. It's not known yet. And that's why I don't care if people agree or don't agree with it, because I am just creating an environment where we can share our truth, where we can talk about some of the things that we're getting, where we could spread information, because that's what disclosure is about. It's not about aliens coming out the sky. It's about us learning how to speak up more from our truth, which is going to be what we're doing the next 7 years. And so there's not going to be a lot of room for lies, because we come back into community with each other when we speak our truth and we grow and evolve. We help each other to grow and evolve. And so I'm just doing my part of that. Okay. Spirit team and highest self always try to wake us up, even the gods we are born with. Yes. Definitely a safe space. I love it here. Okay. Yes, that tracks. I'm 38. Okay, that makes sense. Probably not fully though. Yeah, and just think too, everybody's journey is different. Like, even though I gave y'all those threshold points, it doesn't mean everybody's gonna wake up at those threshold points, because we all have a specific mission or like thing that we're supposed to be here doing. Not everybody's journey is the same. Like, nobody's journey is the same. What happens is Earth has an experience, right? Which we can call like a generation of people. From that experience, Earth says, okay, these are the things we need to refine. These are the things we need. These are the type of people that we need to bring into this environment. And then Earth brings in a whole new batch of people that helps to refine the generation that came before. And that's why they say the children are the future, because they are. whatever we didn't get right or whatever we didn't do well with this, Earth just creates a new batch of people who are already programmed with that shit, right? Because our body comes from Earth. We are Earth in motion. Okay. And so it just kind of keeps moving like that. And so everybody's journey is different. And then there's also something called the divine sparks. There's only 7 of us. And basically what we're meant to do is live fully alive. And as we live fully alive and show people that there's different realities that they could be living based on the choices that they're making and things like that, we awaken the collective. Okay. You need to figure out what your truth is. So the question was, how can we determine our journey? You literally need to figure out what your truth is. So go back through your belief systems and figure out if you actually believe that or if you were just told to believe that. And if you were just told to believe something, you need to try what you actually want to be. You know, like the whole point of this journey is to discover what feels true to you. You will know if something feels true because it feels good. It fills you up with energy, which is like joy, bliss, excitement, you know, all of those things are true to you. And so like when I was a kid, I loved dance. I still love dance to this motherfucking day. Dance is something that fills me up with energy. And so I have to dance. You know what I'm saying? Art is another thing. Something create, you know, it could be music. Some of us have a connection to music and it's because we love music, you know? And so it's like, whatever it is that fills you up with energy, you got to do more of that because that is your truth. But if it burns you out, it's because it's not your truth. And so many people who believe that they truth or they mission is to help other people and they go into healthcare, they go into nursing, they go into all of these things and they end up burning out. They go into therapy because I see a lot of people go into therapy. And what you're trying to do is really protect people from having the same experiences you did. Or maybe you had somebody who was sick in your family and you're trying to save people or whatever the case may be. That's not your fucking mission if you end up burnt out. If you end up burnt out, it's because it's not your mission. That is not your truth. Okay. And the reason why I say that is because I watch people in my family, women in my family, for years, we've always been in nursing and this and that. And it's just like, no, my truth is to take care of everybody. But then I see them end up miserable and then they don't realize they're miserable because the only way they get validated is if they're being helpful to other people, if they're giving to other people, because that's what the generation before us did. That's what they did. They needed women to tie their worth to how much they can do for other people without complaining. Right. And so there's so many women who think that their job is in healthcare or healing, or when your real job is in stewardship. Stewardship is so different than you trying to be the healer. It's in stewardship. It's tending to yourself, because when you tend to yourself and you tend to your inner temple and you can learn how to show up for other people without abandoning yourself, your presence shifts everything. You don't actually have to do anything. You don't actually have to put effort towards something. Everything is in who the fuck you are as a person, not what you can do and what you can give to other people, you know? And so like my whole content, my whole thing that I'll be trying to get people to understand from somebody who was a former martyr, for somebody who kind of slipped into that hole and said, oh, hell no, this ain't for me, is that just to share my experience, because I learned so much about myself because I've been so dedicated to evolving my truth. I don't care about anything else except for what is true for me, what feels good for me. And sometimes the things that I thought felt good for me don't feel good for me when I do it over time, you know, and that's okay. Like even with when I first started going live, like I would say a couple years ago, and like everybody was like, Taja, you should do spiritual mentorship, you should do this, you should do that. And I just was like, I didn't know what my truth was. So I'm like, yeah, sure, let me see that shit. Not gonna lie, I love spiritual mentorship. But then I eventually got burned out because I didn't realize that was me trying to save people. I was still moving from this place of I can't be happy until other people are happy. And because I was moving from that identity, I was burning on fucking fumes, you know? Instead, I realized, oh, damn, I don't necessarily like doing the shadow work part with people. Not in that way. I actually like to teach. I actually like to share, just really, and I don't even call it teaching no more. It's just sharing the truth from my perspective. I actually just prefer to do that. You know, and those people who are aligned with me and those people who feel like it's something to it, that's okay. You can come over here. But if you feel like it's not nothing to it, I'm the wrong person for you. And that's okay. We all kind of have our own group of soul family. And so if I'm not your soul family and everything I say you disagree with, get the fuck on. You're not supposed to be over here. This telling you that this truth is not your truth. And that's okay. Everybody has their own truth, you know. There's a bunch of us who share truths or who closer together, and then there's people who are further apart. We're not supposed to agree on everything. And that's what we're going to learn over these next 7 years, is that it is okay that we disagree. It's through us, our disagreements and our differences, that we grow and evolve together. It's through these little individual experiences that you have, and these individual experiences that I have, and these individual experiences that people over here are having, that we see the full picture. It's not it's a team project, but we're all individuals. It's like the sport of track. It's like track and field, right? Track and field, everybody got the chance to put points on the board, okay? But it comes from individual events. You know, you do your part, I do my part, we do our part, and then they give us a number at the end to tell us who is in the lead. It's like that, you know? So yes, you want to maintain your individuality. Yes, you want to have your own truth. Yes, you want to be able to stand on your truth without collapsing in the midst of other people, because some people's energy are just going to be stronger than yours. And that's okay. It don't mean that your truth is not valid. And I think that's where we be getting it fucked up too, is that we feel like because somebody's louder, they're true. No. You know, usually the people who are speaking from truth are not the people trying to prove it to you or convince you of it. They're not the people trying to shove it down your fucking throat. People who are operating from truth know that truth needs no proof. It is something that can be felt in your body, but you have to be feeling, you know? Everybody's truth is supposed to be different. That's how we grow and evolve. How do you know if you're a divine spark? There's only 7, okay? There's only 7. I am one of them. It is just something I channeled. I didn't even know what they was talking about. Yeah, know yourself. That actually is something that comes from I know Socrates is who made that famous, but there was actually a whole group of people who lived underneath that know yourself knowledge. What were they called? It was a whole civilization that lived underneath that because they were exploring that truth as a group. I can't even remember what they were called, because that's how civilizations back in the day used to be formed. Is like based off of what truths people believe. Like the Egyptians believed one truth, and so they were all working towards that truth, and it had to do with us understanding that death in the spiritual world is very much so intertwined with this world, right? And so everybody who was looking at that was in Egypt, right? The Romans was looking at something else. This, you know, like it was kind of like that. Atlantis is a civilization. Yeah. I have a lot of memories from Atlantis. My oversoul Amara was the high priestess of Atlantis, and so I held a lot of her memories. And I will see her, like, I have visions about like things that she experienced in Atlantis, especially. I turned 33 last year. A week before I turned 33, I was having visions, so many visions about Atlantis. And I didn't know that they were all connected because it was coming like over about like a 6-month period to a year period. I was just getting all these visions about Atlantis. And it's like, I knew it was Atlantis. And when I would ask my spirit team, where am I from? They would say Atlantis. And I'm like, I was thinking like North America, South America, you know, like something like that. I wasn't thinking like, you know, but I did a whole series on Atlantis. It's on my YouTube, y'all. If you go to Spiritual Talk with Big Taj on my YouTube, BIGTAJJ, I did like a 12-part series on Atlantis. You a water energy or a mermaid? So what's crazy is in this, actually, hold on, I think it's in the notes on my phone. They told me that some of us came from the water. Hold on, because I'll be getting channel messages all the time. Okay, hold on. Here's then Atlanteans were the next society, which was all mine. Okay, hold on. They told me some of us come from the water. I got too many notes, y'all. Okay, we were in the water. The Little Mermaid is about us. We could do both, and they dammed up the water so land could be revealed and enslave us on the land. That's why everything is maritime law. We can't breathe that well up here. We forget we can breathe underwater because we've been out of the water too long. Our bodies naturally adapt. Lemuria had liquid crystalline beings who were kind of like plasma. Maybe we were moved to land into the light, and the energy is denser here because the water used to be buoyant. That was a message I was getting, but I was also like half fucking sleep. And if I'm half sleep, y'all gonna have to catch me tomorrow because when I'm like up, I'm up, but when I'm asleep, I'm asleep. I don't want to hear that shit. And so I'm just like, yeah, all right, whatever, you know. So that's what I was getting from that. Like it was the Lumerians who were like more water based, but also Atlantis as well, because Atlantis it spanned across 5 harmonics. And so one of the harmonics was oceanic, the other was etheric. It was physical, but it wasn't everywhere on Earth. There were specific hubs that were physical, like, because you got to think that the physical realm is dense, very dense energy. And so a lot of the Atlanteans were on on an energetic plane above the Earth. But when we fell in consciousness, they fell down into matter, you know? And so we were never supposed to be this low, if that makes sense. So Atlantis wasn't all of Earth. It was just specific hubs. It had like 5 different hubs that kind of like the Azores was one of the hubs. And like there's a spot in like the UK that was a hub. And so it had like hubs. I talked about this in deep detail on my YouTube though. Like I did a 12-part series because I was channeling Amara when I was getting to know her. So yeah, if y'all are interested in that, it's on my YouTube. It's also on my podcast too, Becoming No One. Yes, it was geographically areas, and there were dimensions within it, which were tapped by the priestess, and the mages. Yeah. Yep. But yeah, I be getting all kind of stuff all the time, y'all. Like it's like I be getting streams of consciousness, but I think sometimes when I'm trying to figure something out, I won't just let it fully come through, because I'm like writing all these things and it's blowing my mind as I'm writing it. And so I kind of like interrupt them sometimes when they're in the middle of telling me something. And because I don't know how to just fucking listen sometimes, I put like, it can get a little distorted in the middle, but they always come back around to say, no, this was wrong. This is right. And so that's why I say in this book, like if something don't make sense up here, is because later on they clearing it up. So yeah. She's with Moana. Hawaii is where Lemuria was. Yes. I'm in the store and lay eyes on this little mermaid as you said the words. Yeah, because I think we used to be able to kind of like shapeshift, you know? And so like the dolphins, people don't realize that the dolphins, even though the dolphins are in the water, the dolphins are also on the physical plane, because the dolphins can kind of like split because the dolphins create portals using sound, and they can portal into different dimensions. Like the dolphins are just so much more advanced than you think that they are. And so when you go to the Benign tribe, or the tribe the Bunta, the people who had the story of the dolphin that came from out the water, it was like, it's an African tribe, and it's like you can't go into specific caves because they always have somebody sitting right in front of this cave that they're guarding the energy. Do y'all know what I'm talking about? And they had like information about Sirius A and Sirius B before the Dogon people. Thank you, Victory. I appreciate you, because this brain is only limited and I have so much information up here. Sometimes I just cannot remember it all. So I'll be appreciating when y'all be on the same page as me. The Dogon people, right? The Dogon people talked about the dolphin beings coming out of the water. Yeah, that's a real thing. Like that's a real thing. A lot of the things that we be thinking is myths are actual things that happen. Like, and we don't realize, like in these next like 20 years, some of them beings, as we start embodying our light and as we start transmitting that light, because there's so many different spirits that want to work with us. Like for example, I said Persephone, the blue priesthood is here. The Pleiadians are here. My eternal self is here. My higher self is here. Hecate is here, right? There's so many energies. Yeah, the Nomos beings. There's so many energies that want to work with you because you are here on earth. Like you don't understand how much of a privilege this is, right? And so a lot of the beings that exist in what we consider fairy tales, they exist here, but they're just at a higher harmonic. And also our chakras have been locked, meaning like some of our chakras are locked because we can't hold enough light to have them open, because we would be startled. We would go into panic. We would try to unalive things because humans. But anyways, you know how we be getting. When I say we, I don't really mean we. I mean these people. These people. That's what I mean. Okay? And so we got to wait until we get to a certain capacity before they phase back into this reality, because they do want to come back into one. Like the elemental beings, the vampiric being, like all of those, they want to come back into one. But it's just that We wasn't at a level of consciousness where we could handle that shit. And that's why we have time here again, because time is the separation. Time is like what they put on us so that we can learn that everything is one and that everything is connected and that all beings uh matter. Like, for example, they was talking to me about the reptilians, right? Because the Pleiadians are the reason why the Pleiadians have to help us is because they played a part in genetically modifying us. Okay, because we were actually created by them reptilian beings, right? And that's why the Pleiadians put like a piece of this reptilian part in us. Because a lot of us, which it's so much information, y'all, but the reptilian beings used to live amongst us, meaning like they were like a normal part of our, and they were a very benevolent group. They were scientists, they were geneticists. Nobody understands genetic manipulation like the reptilian beings. Like they were very, very, oh, and I just got an orb that went past me. They were very smart, intelligent scientist beings, right? But just how we got good and bad humans, they got good and bad shit, and they started fighting over they got lost in their own creation, right? Because we don't realize we created Earth, melanated beings. We created this, and then we were a part of the creation. That's kind of how it works. Is that we kind of like game makers, like we make games, and then we descend into the games and play the games. But sometimes we forget that we playing the game, right? And so this group of reptilian beings who are geneticists, they are like do genetic mutation and shit like that. They were playing a game of kings and queens, and them motherfuckers started fighting each other over territory, over possession, over this, over that. Like Ready Player One. Yeah. And so they started causing all this calamity and all this destruction and all this shit. And so they had to go underground because they created a lot of beings that they created was like for slavery. They wanted them to mine the gold because we have no fucking idea what gold is. We have no fucking idea what gold is, right? And so gold is so valuable. It is such a valuable source. And Earth, what we got to realize about Earth too is that Earth has a lot of resources that other planets don't have access to. Earth is a living library. It literally holds the memory of everything. And so it's a group in Tibetan who they store everything in gold. And so what they used to do is like when people who had like a high consciousness would pass away, they would cover them in gold. Like they would take them to this cave and they would like sit them in a specific position, and they would have to hold that position until they died. And as soon as they died, the Tibetans would cover them in all gold, like, and make a statue out of them. Because if people just came and touched the gold, because gold is like a conductor, it like connects you to like energy or something like that. And so they would put gold all over your body to kind of like encapsulate you in gold. And if people were struggling with like tapping into higher energies, and this person could do that, they could just come and touch the gold, and they would like get access to like a higher level of consciousness, you know? So I forgot why I was telling y'all that. There was something important to that. Damn, I forgot. Yeah, it's like statues. Yep. Do they acknowledge right from wrong? Well, because there is no right or wrong, though. Right or wrong did not come until Christianity did. Because Christianity broke everything into like, oh, it's either divine or it's demonic. And it was like a form of control. We don't think that way. This is a neutral zone because we're in the heart space of a being. We're in the heart space of a being. The void one. We're in the void of a being, right? And so every thought you have comes through as neutral until you apply meaning to it, until you try to understand it, until you try to figure out a story that makes it make sense to you, right? And so yeah, that's why people be. And also too, they was talking about like the sacred sites and how a lot of the sacred sites, which makes me think about them knocking down Stonehenge. A lot of them sacred sites are important because they left information. Well, we left information because we knew we were going to forget. Right? Those of us who created this place, we knew we were going to forget. And so what we did is put all the information in the trees. That's why every single thing on earth has consciousness, is because we programmed the consciousness into everything so that if we touch something, we will remember. You know, everything is trying to show us how to remember our way back to ourselves. And so some of these sacred sites like Stonehenge, like people will go to those sacred sites and they touch the stone. That's because you left something there that you needed to remember, you know? You were saying that you Earth have a lot of value sources and other. Thank thank you, my girl. Yes, Earth has a lot of valuable resources, and so what we're here to do is to dream the library back into existence, because Earth holds the Akashic records and it holds 12 other libraries of information, because every being from around the galaxy, around the multiverse, came here and programmed their information into Earth because we needed a place to go to learn and to grow. And Earth is, because Earth is more water than it is anything, it holds memory, it holds story, right? And so we have access to so many resources, so much information here, and not everybody can get into here. We literally waited in line to be here. And so as a medium, because y'all know I'm a medium, so I can't tell y'all how many times I've talked to a spirit who has unalived themselves, that has so much regret, because if they would have understood why they was here, they would have never did that. They would have never made that decision, and that shatters me a little bit, because it's just like, oh damn, like, and it's like, if I would have known what I was here to do, then I could have just did it. And it's like, yeah, we all say that, but that's the whole point, is you're trying to rediscover your truth, and it takes time to do that, because time is what helps us to realize that everything is connected. I feel so lucky. I was wondering why I became interested in all of this shit, but I'm getting more and more. Yeah. When you get out of the shadow of it, y'all, I'm telling y'all, I'm 34, right? I'm 34. I just turned 34 in May. When you get out of that shadow period between 25 and 31, 25 and 31, it is so much different on the other side if you do the work. But you got to be willing to do the work. You got to be willing to unpack your shit, right? You got to be willing to unpack your shit. And that shit's not easy, because it requires you to look at yourself in a way that you might, like, like all the shit that you be rejecting, all the judgment you pass on other people, is because of shit in you that you don't want to accept, right? You got to be willing to look at that shit. Anything you see in other people, anything that's coming to your reality, is informing you about you. Everything that comes into your reality is informing you about you. So even when you giving your friends a speech about their relationship, or you giving your friends a speech about some shit, that speech is for you. Everything is for you. And that's why I tell y'all, I'm just sharing my truth, and y'all get to benefit from it. That's it. I'm just sharing what I'm getting, so that y'all can, but it does not mean that my truth got to be your truth. I think sometimes when you have awareness of something, you can see if it's for you or not. And so I consider myself as more of like a seed planter. I plant the seeds, and y'all gonna decide whether or not y'all tend to them and they grow. But it's not my work to do that part for you. My only work is to tell you the truth from my perspective. But you have to have done enough work for that truth to actually be rooted in wisdom, because remember, clarity is the vehicle you need to express through in order for you to express your wisdom. You cannot express your wisdom if you have not gotten clarity. Clarity comes from you looking at yourself and you internally alchemizing the energy. If you have not alchemized the energy, you have no motherfucking business. Girl, yes, indeed. So easy to give others advice and so hard to accept it. Yeah. That does make sense, though. My truth does not have to be yours, but it's still mine. Yes. And there's so many people who will hear other people talk, and just because they speak with more conviction, or they speak more forcefully, or they whatever, their truth just evaporates. What? Why? You've done a lot of work to come to that truth. I think you should be considerate. You should consider other people's perspectives. And if somebody presents you with new information, you should consider that shit, because the goal is to get to the truth. Okay? It's not to stay committed to a version of your truth. It's to get to the truth, right? And so if the goal is to get to the truth, if somebody's presenting you new information and that make more sense than what you got, consider that shit. Feel into that shit. Explore that shit. But it's too many times that we'll get a truth, and because we built an identity around a lie, we reject that truth, and we just like, I don't feel like that, and then we never look into the thing. You are refusing to grow. What did they say? Hold on, let me run it back. Little handy dandy notebook. I feel like Blue's Clues in this bitch. Hold on, what they say. 1 second. Wait a second. That's some good shit. Oh, they singing a song in my head. Whitney Houston, I'm every woman. It's all in me. They told me that all women are connected. All women never disconnect from source. So we're all connected to each other. Um, mhm. Once you know your truth, you can move. Period. When seeking your truth, okay. When you're seeking the truth, you're moving. When you're not seeking the truth, you're not moving. Okay. You are truth is important because at our core, we are awareness. Okay. We are what notices, and because we are consciousness, awareness moving through spirit, because consciousness is awareness moving through spirit, the truth is the compass. So the truth is what leads you back towards yourself. And that's why I say if something feels good, move towards it, because that's your truth. If something feels bad, set a boundary, figure out the lesson, move away from it, because that's not your truth. If something is your truth, it's going to fill you up with energy. It's your soul, you generate a soul energy in its highest manifested potential: joy, bliss, excitement, gratitude, acceptance, right? But if it's not your truth, you're gonna burn out, right? That's some good shit. Handy dandy notebook. Okay. I feel like I've been living my shadow life my entire life, and I'm just getting to the point where I feel like I deserve better. Yeah, they say sometimes you gotta live it until you get tired of it. Jesus said it, the truth will set you free. Jesus didn't say that. Jesus is an egregore. Um, Yahshua said that. I do need a Blues Clues share. Jesus doesn't. Let me not do that, because I think that the Bible is a beautiful book. I think the Bible actually is a very magical book. But I think the way you perceive and you read the Bible is important. It's very important, because if you uh, if you take everything literal in the Bible, it's going to enslave you, because that's what it was created to do. That's the energy that was used to create that specific version. But if you can read between the lines, that motherfucker will tell you everything you need to know about spiritually awakening. Uh-huh. Yeah. I think the problem with the Bible is that they put a motherfucker on that stage and they said he gonna tell you exactly how to read it. No, we were all supposed to read it from our own perspective. We were all supposed to get our own truth from the story. But because you have somebody on the stage telling you what the truth is, so many people get trapped in that shit. You can't let somebody tell you what your truth is. The truth is something that could be felt in your body. But I think what they do a lot in our society is they give us half truths, because they know we can feel the truth. And so if they can give us a portion of the truth, that's enough to attach us to that. That's enough to attach us to that. That's the trap. They give you a half truth, you know? And so it's up to you to have discernment. But discernment is only developed through the spiritual world. On the journey of you looking for your truth is when you develop discernment. And so some people have really good discernment because their ancestors did enough work, you know? And so you don't just inherit your ancestors' eye color. You inherit the way that they brace themselves. You inherit their wisdom, their medicine, they everything. You are your ancestors. There's no separation between you and them, because you're the continuation of them, you know? So if they've done the work, you'll be able to see it. Those of y'all who could see spirits on people's faces, like the spirit of malice, the spirit of malice, it look a little deformed. It look a little demonic. It look a little scary. It look like a fucking goose. What the fuck? Not goosebumps, but it looked like motherfucking I don't know. I have it in my head, but I'm not saying it right when it's coming out, so I don't know. Like a gargoyle. Thank you. It looked like a gargoyle. It looked like a fucking gargoyle, right? Those of y'all who could see that, is because y'all ancestors could see that. Your ancestors were very spiritual and aligned with spirit. So many of us, we don't even realize that we was root workers. We was conjure people. You know, they disconnected us from our practices and gave us Christianity because they can't fuck with us when we are spiritually aligned, when we are actually engaging with earth, because we are earth in motion. There's no separation between us and earth. This is earth's domain. Therefore, this is our domain. Earth's energy is melanin. Melanin is Earth's energy. And so if you get back into community with Earth and them roots, and you pay reverence to the spirits within those roots, the wisdom within those roots, okay, you cannot be fucked with. You know, you really can't. Spiritual alignment scares people. It does. It does. Because we've been told a lot about what spirituality should be. And because Christianity been the loudest voice in the room for a long motherfucking time, especially in the West. And so even if you weren't indoctrinated into Christianity, you still hear that shit everywhere you go. You still see the remnants of it, you know? And sometimes that shit seeps into your subconscious, whether you know it or not. So yeah. How do you do that? Do what? Yes, spirituality takes courage. That's why I said what they say. If you're going to go into the spiritual realm, you need curiosity and you need bravery. Curiosity and bravery are what gives you safe passage. Curiosity, bravery, authenticity, devotion. What else did they say? Hold on. Yeah. Safe passage requires authenticity, respect, and devotion. You need to pay reverence to the spirits that are helping you. You need to be devoted to your truth and to discovering your truth. And you need to be showing up authentically. You need to be honest about who the fuck you are and who you being. You know, it takes courage and bravery. Wait, where did they say courage and bravery? Yeah, it says our attachments are portals meant to lead towards expansion, but they can only be viewed through the lens of curiosity. Curiosity and bravery are how you cross the threshold to sacred detachment. You know? So yeah, it is a solo journey. I think too many of us try to take people with us on that journey. That journey is for you. That journey is for you to take. So many of us, truth gets skewed by other people because our attachments to other people, us trying to hold on to people who are not where we are, us trying to carry other people on our back. They have to make the choice to transform first. If they have not made the choice to transform, they're going to be rejecting you. They're going to make you feel unseen. They're going to make you feel unheard. They're going to be mischaracterizing you. They're going to misunderstand you all the fucking time, because somebody who is misunderstanding you, somebody who is rejecting you, is somebody who is refusing to move. They're refusing to change. It's going to be like beating a dead horse. When a horse dies, it don't matter how many times you hit that horse. It cannot feel it anymore. And so you got to be of the wiser and not be in this savior ass energy. And you got to say, oh, that person isn't willing to change. Let me put my lippy in a zippy, move in a different direction. I got to go where I'm received. But so many of us will stay there and try to convince, improve, and get them to do it our way. That's not your fucking job. Your truth is your truth. It's not for you to try to impose onto somebody else. And we don't realize that that's what we're doing, is we're imposing our truth. We're telling them that we know what's better for them for their life than they know what's best for them for their life. It's arrogant. It's an arrogant assumption to think that that person has spent 24/7 with themselves and that you, who sees them 15 minutes every 2 weeks, knows better than them. No, it's wrong. It's a violation. Yeah, I've been arrogant too, though. You know, that's why I'm saying you got to do your own work. I'm telling y'all shit from my experience. I was the same way. I try to save everybody. And I thought that I was helping them. And I kept getting, you're judging me. You're always criticizing me. I can never be this, you know, but that's all language of people who don't want to change. And so it's like me trying to cause transformation in an environment of people who don't want to change. It's like walking up to the cancer cells and saying, you need to be different. This is what you need to do. No, bitch, I decided to be cancer. I don't want to do that. You know, and it's just like, there's a better life over here. I know exactly what you should do. And it's just like, well, I've never seen that life. I've only ever seen this life. And so I want this life. Stop telling me about that life. And then you just keep going until you tire, until you get exhausted, until you resent every single cancer cell over there when they didn't even ask for your motherfucking help. They didn't even ask you to do that. And then you resent them for some shit they didn't ask you to do. It's the feeling responsible for everybody. Yeah. Yeah. I still battle with the sense of responsibility for my community, you know? Oh yeah, absolutely. I do too. And I want y'all to say, I'm not saying this without compassion. You know, I just think I'm in a very different energy than I've been in a long time. And maybe that's just me being sure of myself. But no, I understand anybody who's stuck in that energy of trying to save other people. You know, I think everybody, sometimes you got to go through that shit so that you can realize that it wasn't your job, you know? Sometimes you gotta, that's humanity. That's the human experience. The compassion. Your compassion needs boundaries though. Your compassion needs boundaries though. Because if your compassion requires you to abandon yourself to show up for somebody else, your compassion is being weaponized. You weaponize. You doing it. You know? We are supposed to be using that energy to save ourselves. Yeah. Because you got to go first. You really don't know what you know until you've lived what you know. You know, and so many of us get stuck in the concept and the possibilities and the shoulda, coulda, wouldas and the da 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 da, so much so that we never move. It's like somebody who is like 50. Let's just say somebody 50. Because I get a lot of older clients and they'll be like, yeah, but it's just too late for me to do this. And like sometimes I'll be looking at other people and I'm just like, damn, like I could have did that. I was thinking about that, but then I had a kid and then I did it. All of that is an excuse for you not to move. All of that is an excuse for you to stay the same. And I don't say that without compassion. Okay. That's you living in the possibilities of things without taking the action that's aligned with it. And so you were thinking the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, that's not enough. You spending too much time in the spiritual realm. You have to actually do something about it to make it a reality. If you're not doing something about it to make it a reality, then you're just going to be envious. Envy is the energy that shows you where you have abandoned your gifts. Okay. The only time that you're envious is when you've abandoned yourself. You know the talent that was inside of you, but you did nothing with it. And now you're watching somebody else live your dream and you like, why them? The difference between them and you is that they tried. You didn't. That's the only difference. They tried, you didn't. And that's hard for us to hear, you know, like, I sometimes I feel terrible saying it that way, but I think sometimes we don't understand stuff until it's said clearly. They tried, you didn't. Envy is what happens when you're in competition with other people as well. So that video was a video earlier this week that just, and I haven't been watching Love Island this season because last season was enough that I probably won't look at that shit for another 4 years because it annoyed the fuck out of me. Right. And so there's a girl on there named Soul. Her best friend gets on the internet and she's making videos. And in the video, she's like, well, she's watched me be successful for 10 years in her face. I feel no type of way about her and her experience. And what you got to understand about her is that she's actually really insecure. Bitch, stop the motherfucking press. That is somebody who is in competition with their friend. That is somebody who only is friends with her because it feeds her ego. Because she gets joy out of seeing that girl be insecure and not see how beautiful she is. The friend sees how beautiful she is, but she don't like that everybody else is seeing it now. And so she's trying to separate herself from it by saying, oh no, she had to watch me be successful for 10 years. I'm really that girl. I get modeling contract after contract after contract. She don't even get modeling contracts because she's so insecure and she doesn't realize how beautiful she is. So I'm better than her. That's what she's saying. So many women are taught to be in competition with each other. You got to unpack that shit. You got to unpack that shit because even if you feel like you're not in competition with other people in some aspect of your life, you are, because it was conditioned into you. I had to grapple with that shit a couple months ago and it made me sick to my fucking stomach because when Spirit brought it up to me, I was like, no, the fuck I'm not. I've never been in competition with another woman. I'm the person who's posting other people's shit. And so I was like, I could never be in competition with another woman. Right? But because I am committed to the truth and not how I feel about something, I considered it and I looked at it and I was like, this is interesting. And it brought me to the situation with my dad. My dad is very affectionate. He's very loving. He's very all the things, right? My dad, when I was a kid, he used to take me to like play like basketball and swim and all of that. And I was really athletic as a kid. And my brother really wasn't athletic as a kid. And so like when I was with my dad, I feel like I was the star of the show. But when I was with my mom, my brother was the star of the show. But I primarily lived with my mom, right? And so my brother was primarily the star of the show in my life. But he don't see it that way. And we were having two different experiences. That's okay. His truth and my truth can kind of exist in the same realm because his experience is valid and so is mine. And so I didn't realize that I loved the attention that my dad was giving me so much that I treated everything like a competition. Like when I went to school, like grades, like I was the highest of the fucking high on everything. 4.0 GPA, a star athlete, number one in the state. Like I was all of these things. And I didn't realize how much that meant to me, even though none of my family would acknowledge it. Like I feel like nobody really acknowledged all the things that I did, but for some way that was feeding my ego. And so when it came to like relationships, I would never compete with other girls, but I would do things like check men in front of the girl, even though I know she's probably gonna have a problem with me saying whatever the fuck I'm saying to this man in front of her face or whatever the case may be. And it would always cause an issue. And I'm just like, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to him. And it's like, I still wouldn't treat her with love and care, you know? And it was about, no, you with me. It was like me trying to possess people and stuff like that. And so I had to look at that shit. And I had to be like, okay, if somebody felt this way about me, if somebody felt like I was in competition with them, I would have to own that shit for the rest of my life. Because if they are viewing it that way, that's their truth. And they valid in their truth. I can't never tell you what your truth is. I don't have to feel the same way as you for me to say, okay, I could see in certain situations how that could be perceived that way. You know? Yes, I thought I was weak when I was young, but I was really mad. Actually, I was victim thinking. Yeah, I think it's easy to get stuck in the victim consciousness because it gives you a place to put the energy. If it's somebody else's shit, then you don't have to do nothing with it. Oh man, LOL, hearing that from so many people in periods I felt not handsome. Tell me I am gorgeous. Yeah. Yep. And I think sometimes we don't realize that some of the shit that we say and we do is like you being in competition with other women or you being in competition with other people. Like, for example, Lotto. Okay. Allegedly, whatever I say is alleged. This is my opinion. But Lotto is a pick-me. Lotto is in competition with other women. That's why she's always bringing up her only sleeping with a couple of people. That is competition. Oh, but I only got 3 bodies. You think you're more valuable because you slept with less people. And therefore, you're worthy of being kept because you slept with less people, because that's what men say that they want. But men love the hoes. I don't give a fuck what a man is saying. Men love the hoes. They're just telling you that because that's what patriarchy says they should wife. They should wife the good girl. And so Lotto says that I've only had this many bodies. Oh, big mama, no kids. Oh, it's because she's in competition with other women. You know, like if you don't see it in yourself, you ain't going to be able to point it out in nobody else. You know, you ain't gonna be able to point it out in nobody else. You have to be able to consider it within yourself. And you got to understand that it's not your fault. This is conditioning. They conditioned you to be this way with the whole only the strongest survive. That creates hierarchy. That means that there is there's levels to this shit. Right? And so you want to make sure you're on the highest level. And so some women only do shit to make sure that they're perceived at this high level. And men don't give a fuck about that shit. He's still gonna do you wrong, and now he know you a dummy. Hold on, let me slow down. Let me slow down. But women don't realize that that's your ego, right? And if a man can see that you're in your ego, he know he can feed your ego. That's what's gonna make you a fucking dummy. That same shit. Oh, I'm pure. Oh, I'm this. Oh, I'm that. So when he come back, he know that's important to you. So when he go and cheat and he come back, that's exactly what he gonna say to stroke your motherfucking ego because he know you have an ego. It's really not even about him. It's about you being in competition with other women, right? And so all he do is gotta say, you're the best I ever had. And I'm so sorry. I'll never do this again. And you're the best girl ever. He knows that feeds your ego. And so now he know how to play you because you're in your ego. All he do is gotta stroke that motherfucking ego. That's it. What happens when you constantly dealing with friends who end up envious or in competition? You need to look at where you're envious and in competition because you're only attracting what you are. You know, I got a client and that's no tea, no shade. That's no tea, no shade. But you have to look at where you are compared. And envy is subtle. Envy is not loud like jealousy. Envy is very subtle. It's in those moments where you're comparing yourself to somebody else, where you're like, damn, I should be further along. Why don't I have this? Why don't I have that? It's the moment, because a lot of us live in the future. We don't live in the present moment. We're always trying to get to something. We're always trying to get to something outside of ourselves. And that makes us bitter with where we are right now. And so sometimes competition is so subtle, like that you don't even realize that it's competition. It's like, damn, like, She's only 23 and she's making $70,000 a year. I'm 33 and I'm not, I got to do something. And so my competition with women was so different from other people because I wasn't really competing with other women. I was competing with myself, but it was because of something else that I saw in somebody else. Right. And so my competition looked like this. I'm 33 years old. You know, I should have this. Why don't I have that? And that's the things that I start chasing. It don't necessarily have to do with other people. It has more so to do with me. You know, that's where I had to that's why I was like, I'm not in competition. I don't understand why y'all bringing this to me. And then it's like, oh, anytime that you living in the future and you're dissatisfied with where you are right now because you don't have certain things, it's because you're competing. It's because you want it's the performance of it all. And then what you start experiencing in that moment is shame. Shame is something is wrong with me. Why don't I have these things? It must be that I'm not worthy of these things. And we get to chasing those things. You know, it's because of the competition. It's because of I don't have the house, the marriage, the kids, the this. I must be inadequate. I've never been in a relationship. I must be inadequate. Okay. Those type of stuff, shame causes you to perform. Shame causes you to compete. Yeah, shame causes you to compete. And sometimes it really don't look like you're competing with other people, but you're playing the game. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, I don't have this career. Oh, I need to be making $160,000 a year. If I'm not making that, then I'm not doing good. And so you compete. It don't mean that you're competing with other people, but you're competing in the system. You're competing in the system, if that makes sense. And so if you can keep attracting people who are like that, it's probably because there's something there that you are not seeing. You know, I called my shame out. And when I called it out, I felt so much lighter. Yeah. Yep. And so I had to go through that and work through that with myself because I was like, oh, damn, I didn't even realize that was me being in competition, but I'm competing. You know, it's like I'm trying to get these things because to me, they make me feel validated in my experience, you know? And it's just like, why does that make me feel validated and not the simple fact that I'm a bomb ass bitch, that my depth knows no motherfucking bounds, that my mind is brilliant. You know, why is it those things that make me valuable and not who I am as a person? Every single person I talk to, every friend that I've had has left better than I found them. Why is that not seen as valuable? And it's because how society has trained us and conditioned us. And so we got to unpack all that shit. Every single piece of it, whatever it is you reject in other people is what's inside of you at some level. You have to create space for that part of you to exist. Okay. I know that I'm capable of X, Y, and Z at some level. I know I'm capable of competing at some level because I've been an athlete my whole life. I didn't realize that everything was a competition for me, but it is. It was for a long time. It's why I wouldn't allow myself to rest is because I'm competing. I feel like if I stop, it's all going to go away. And so you just climb, go, do more. That's you competing. Instead of trusting in your magnetism. You know, you start competing. So, yeah. All right, let me look at some of these comments. Baby last season made me hate the whole franchise. Oh, they're talking about something else. But yeah, you know, so you got to look at it inside of yourself. I think I've done a lot of work for myself around my shit. And every single time something comes up, even if I don't agree with it, I'm just considerate. I need to at least try to look at it. And I promise you, every single time it's something to it. Every single time it's something I didn't see. Even those situations that come up that I think that I've transcended in some way. Every time it comes back like inadequacy. Inadequacy has shown up in my reality 1,000 fucking times in the last 5 years. And every time it comes, it's like, bitch, you again? What the fuck? I thought I had dealt with you. Why the fuck you keep showing up here, bitch? I thought I told you you weren't welcome. But that part of me that's struggling needs my assistance, right? And so this last time inadequacy showed up, I was like, oh no, hell no. I thought I did this. And so I was like, okay, you got to consider it because it's showing up for a reason, right? And so I sat with the inadequacy again, and it revealed something about something that I had overlooked when it came to the relationship between me and my brother. And so I was like, oh, I didn't even realize that those two things were connected. And so I was like, oh, okay, fine. I get that. All right, cool. And so the journey is about refinement. It's not perfection. If you're trying to move towards perfection, you can't let people see you be vulnerable. You can't let people see you in an exposed state. You know, that's because you're chasing perfection. Perfection comes from shame. Something is wrong with me. And so what happens, you start performing, you start competing. That's perfection. But you're supposed to be moving in authenticity. Authenticity is about refinement, you know? So when you have an experience, did you like it or did you not like it? If you liked it, keep the stuff you like. But the things that you didn't like, you need to choose another option. You need to keep refining yourself until you become the version of yourself that you absolutely love. Like the things that I've been struggling with in the last couple of months is my Aries energy. And I think it's because Saturn is in Aries and I'm like super fucking Saturny. I'm Saturny as fuck, which Saturn don't even exist. Really, that's a whole we ain't even gonna talk about that right now. But oh, I'm gonna have to unpack that. But I've been struggling with Aries, right? I was told that Aries is actually Venus, but that's a whole nother. We gonna get there because it's in the book. The book is it has like a lot of shit that was it's right actually right here in the book because they was telling me about Neptune and saying there was really only 3 planets, and so they said Saturn is an android, artificial being designed to resemble a human or a being. Aquarius and Capricorn can't know that they are ruled by Neptune because they are the cycle breakers. They break the cycle of the moon and the illusion or the mirror. The moon is the mirror, it's separating us through illusion. And so Aquarius and Capricorn are actually ruled by Neptune. They're very spiritual energies. Yeah. That's okay. If that's what you believe that. This is my truth that I'm sharing. I don't necessarily care how y'all feel about that. And that's again not me being rude. It's just that my truth is my truth, and I choose to stand in my truth. Okay. Taurus is Venus. Sagittarius is Neptune. Scorpio and Libra are Venus. Based off of what they telling me, they said there's only 3 planets. Well, not like only 3, right? Because you remember when I was telling y'all yesterday, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Those are 3 cycles of the same energy, you know. And so no, so this is what they told me. Hold on, let me just read it because they gave me so much information. So they said, okay, that's okay. The rings, okay. The moon pushes illusions into the water. Aquarius sees ahead externally. Capricorn sees ahead internally. Neptune, okay, hold on. Yeah, they told me Neptune was the North Star too. Like Neptune is not like we see Neptune all the time. It's the North Star, Polaris. Okay. Wait, what was the question again? I love that. I like Capricorn rising. It's too many things coming at me. Hold on. What about okay? Yeah, so Neptune, not Jupiter. So what they told me is like, you know how we have a chakra system, right? And we live in this reality where we view everything in separation because it helps us to understand better. It helps us to research the details and things like that. And separation is time. They put time on this planet because we needed time to heal. It's kind of like us being in an incubator, you know, and they try to slow it down so that we have time to see that everything is related, right? And so what they were saying is that we only have 3 main chakras, which are your sacral, your heart, and your third eye. Your sacral is your water womb. Your heart is your void womb. This is your fire womb, right? This is Neptune. This is Neptune, your highest spiritual energy in its reality, right? And so although Mercury and Jupiter are like energies of a threshold, okay? And so when you are going through the process of conceptual knowing, applied knowing, embodied knowing, we're always going through that process because that's how we expand as consciousness. Conceptual knowing is just understanding, having an experience and gathering information. Applied knowing is now that you know what the lesson of that was, how do you practice it in your life? And then embodied knowing is that you've practiced it enough for it to become an instinct, right? Neptune is kind of like our embodied knowing, right? But anyways, what they were saying is that when you go through this stage and when you enter into applied knowing, Mercury comes into play. And Mercury is the messenger energy. And so when you enter into the applied knowing, which is where you're practicing, that's where all the illusions come up because it's trying to strengthen your discernment. right? And so when you start to practice something, stuff starts to go wrong, and it's because you're trying to make sure that you know what you know and that you're choosing what you're choosing, you know? And so it's when you're in that mirroring phase, Mercury comes as the messenger to help you, right? But when you're in a like phase of like birthing something new, so say you go through the full process, you've embodied one specific truth. When you start looking at another truth, right, and you're trying to birth something new, that's when Jupiter comes into play. Like Jupiter amplifies the thing, you know? And so it's kind of like major chakras and minor chakras. It's like that. But the main ones are those three. Does that make sense? That's what I experienced when I was learning DBT. Yeah, so it's like Mercury is an energy, like Jupiter is an energy. Mercury is a messenger energy. Jupiter is an amplifying energy. And Jupiter and Mercury only come when we need them. They also say Uranus is a comet. It's not a planet. They said it's a comet, or like it's a meteor. What they say, comet. And that's why it causes change when that comet passes us. And I was like, oh, okay. I don't know. These are just messages that I'm getting. These are just things that I'm exploring, you know, based off of what I'm channeling down, what I'm being told. I don't want to get to what's said in the book yet, because I think it's going to be a jumble, because I was kind of writing really fast because this part was interesting about the Saturn and the Pluto and whatever. And so I want to wait till we actually get there before I jump ahead. Hold on, let me just mark where we ended too. Oh, so we got to start right here next time. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, so it's like they was explaining to me in so many different ways, but I was receiving so much information at one time. It's just like by the time they got to that, I was tired of writing, but they did give me a lot of information, and I know that I was getting it jumbled up because I was so excited. You know, and so I was like, oh, I need to come back when the emotion passed. And so I probably need to sit with them anyways today, because they were trying to tell me where everything goes. And they were saying like Libra and Aries are Venus, Taurus and Scorpio are Venus, because they was giving it to me like the sister signs, because they was telling me like the sister signs are the same energy, but just at different polarities, you know? And so Taurus and Scorpio are the same energy, but different polarities. And so Taurus and Scorpio are really Taurus or really Scorpio. Like they're both of the energies in one, right? And then Libra and Aries are one energy together. But these two are also polarities of each other, because they keep on showing me like microcosm, mesocosm, macrocosm. Like there's always three things going on at once. Does that make sense? Because Venus is also our higher self is Venus as Earth. Earth's higher self is Venus. Venus's higher self is Neptune. You know? I don't know if that makes sense. It's like everything is a level inside, like threes inside of threes inside of threes. And so even when they was talking about like when a baby is born, it's because the baby is going through 3 cycles. The first 3 months is a cycle. The next 3 months is a cycle. The next 3 months is a cycle. And that's the first, second, and third trimester, right? Everything is a cycle. And so everything follows that cycle of conceptual knowing, applied knowing, and body knowing. So it's a lot, you know, everything is a cycle. Yeah. So it's like, even with 1 through 9, they only say that there's only 3 numbers that exist, which are 3, 6, and 9. You know, but 1 and 2 together make 3. Okay. 4 and 5 together make 7. 4, 5, 6. You know, so it's like, if we're going to spread the energy out, then you have 1, 2 there. But if you're going to condense the energy and make it unified, then you have 3. You know? And so like 1, 2, and 3 is about the self. So 3 is really about the self. 4, 5, and 6 is about the self in matter, right? And then 5, 6, and 4, 5, and 6, 7, 8, and 9 is the self in spirit. The self in matter and spirit. Does that make sense? You know, so it's like a continuation of the same cycle, just kind of like we're a continuation of our ancestors. It's a continuation of the same cycle. And it's always those 3 things. Like it's always 3 things. Yeah, it's always three things, three questions, three whatever. So yeah, anywho, I have a client in like 25 minutes, that cat that I was telling y'all about. And I've been hopped up on coffee. So oh my God. Good thing I did the reading before. Uh, but all right, y'all. This will be on YouTube. So y'all can watch it on YouTube. I might be back on here tomorrow. Because tomorrow's kind of like my off day. And so I might be back on here tomorrow. If I'm not on here tomorrow, though, I'll be back on here on Friday. Yeah, my client is a cat. I mean, my client is a person who has a cat. And so I do animal communication for fun now. Just something that I can do for fun. And also just connecting back to the animal kingdom. Because we do have a connection with them. Oh, hey, Kenya. Thank you. I appreciate that, Trey. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep periodically hopping on here and just sharing the messages that I'm getting. Again, these are just my theories. They don't take them literally. Feel into what feels true for you, and some of them are not fully developed because I haven't got to the pages where they continue on the conversation. So I'm just gonna keep this as like a conversation that we're moving through. Ordered the books you recommended. Okay, gotcha. But yeah, I'm just gonna keep on with this conversation. And I'm gonna keep channeling messages because I got a lot of different energies that are trying to come through and work with me right now. And so like maybe I'll do like because I do have like a TikTok subscription, YouTube subscription, which I think is like $24.99 a month. I'm gonna start doing like some fun stuff, but I need to put it behind like some type of paywall because TikTok is always like tagging me for like whatever, you know. So yeah, I might do like some of that stuff because I'm getting like a lot of the divine deities are coming through. The Great Mother keeps coming through and she has a lot to say. She just seems so vast, if I'm being honest. So yeah, so I just kind of want to keep sharing my truth from my perspective just to stimulate conversation, to get people thinking, critically thinking, or just exploring different ideas, you know, of reality, because I think that a lot of times we're committed to one version of reality when there's a multitude of different things happening at one place. Like there's a multitude of different energies here in this one place. We just can't see it all, you know? And so I think that we need to be dedicated in these next 70 years to just exploring what our truth is. And our truths don't have to align. You know, I'm giving my truth from my perspective. I hope that you on your page are giving your truth from your perspective. You know, like that's really what disclosure is people who have been staying quiet and silent because we've been treating the truth like a weapon in this reality. Like the truth is the fucking problem. Like we are supposed to be speaking up. We're supposed to be sharing what we have gathered and what we see and what we haven't said anything about, you know? So that's what this is about. And why I'm doing this. And it requires me to be vulnerable because a lot of this shit to some people sounds like I'm off my fucking rocker. But I'm not, you know, this is just shit that I'm getting and stuff that I'm exploring and truths that I'm exploring because I'm a very open person. And so I just, you know, be wanting to share this. Because that's how long Uranus is in Gemini for the next 7 years into 2033. And 2033 is a big year because it's when the rose grid actually stabilizes. And so you will be presented with that choice of if you're going to stay in this distorted ass fucking reality or if you're going to match New Earth's frequency. They also told me that like eventually we're not going to want to eat anymore. And so I've been experiencing some weird shit, like to where when I eat something, it's like I have no connection to it. It's almost like being emotionally disconnected in a way. Like, I don't know if you've ever been like emotionally numb and then somebody gives you some bad news and it's just like, bitch, that's just another Tuesday. It kind of feels like that when I'm eating. Like there's no connection to me in the food. And I love to eat. So I'll just be like, what the fuck? But it's like, I just want fruit. I just want fruit. So it's just strange. But they said eventually we won't have to eat because we're light. And so we'll just take it in from the light. So yeah, they've been talking to me about a lot of stuff. And so I'm just trying to, yeah, I'm disgusted with food too, Destiny. I'm not even going to lie. Like I had a piece of chicken the other day and I literally looked at that shit and I just paid like $25 for this. I looked at that shit and I was like, no. I closed that bitch up and I put it away. And like, even when I'm eating my food and it could be good, I don't never finish my whole shit no more or anything. It's just like, I just be like, ugh, I'll be so turned off, you know? And I finding out that the animals don't care if we eat them. Like the animals really don't care if we eat them or we don't eat them. Cause like they were created as companions for us and they understand death in a way that we don't understand death. but it's not giving us anything of nutritional value. Like we consume light. We are light beings, right? And so the only way for you to get light is from fruits and vegetables because they're created in the sunlight, in the moonlight, you know? But that's neither here nor there. I gotta go because I got a client. I love y'all. I will talk to y'all soon. Alrighty. And this will be on my YouTube, y'all. So you can go check out my YouTube as well if you want to look at this. I have a playlist called Channel Messages where I'm just going to be doing this over and over again. So see y'all later. Hasta la vista.